Chapter 367. After the semi-final round between Ghost and Reagan, the commentators announced a 6 hours break before the final of body-strengthening stage cultivators. In the final, Sabrina faced Victoria. The final battle lasted for an hour before Sabrina overpowered Victoria and defeated her. The battle between the girls kept everyone on the edge of their seats. Even Ashton, who wasn't very interested in the tournament, watched the fight without batting an eye. Many expected Sabrina to give a speech after winning the championship, while the commoners wondered what would be the rewards. However, Sabrina just said thank you to the crowd and left the battle stage. Taking the Pegasi carriage offered to her by the Holy Trident Academy, Sabrina flew towards where Andrew was staying. The sun had almost disappeared into the horizon when she reached the manor where Andrew was staying. Young Miss, when her carriage landed, quickly few of the guards staying outside guarding the door came to open the carriage door. They bent forwards to show their respects. Andrew inside? Yes, young miss. Sabrina hastened inside to meet her cousin, leaving the carriage under the care of the guards. At first Sabrina thought winning the championship tournament would make her feel pleased, or at least something, except it didn't. Although she fought with Victoria for almost an hour, she didn't use her full power. If she had defeated Elia, she knew she would have felt different. However, Sabrina could not think about anything at the moment except her cousin's condition. She hastened inside the home. Entering the manor, she walked straight to the hall where she saw Andrew with several people standing around him. She expected Andrew to be in his room taking a rest. Instead, she found him surrounded by people. Andrew was resting on the sofa while Imelda had her hand on his shoulder. She was consoling him. Sabrina saw her mother, Aunt Imelda, a hooded person who stood in a corner of the hall, Alicia and Norvin. Sabi, Imelda was surprised to see Sabrina enter the hall. All of their gazes, including Andrew's, fell on Sabrina. You won? Diana asked as though she already knew the answer. Sabrina gave a small nod before walking towards Andrew. Shouldn't you be celebrating your win right now, Sabi? Andrew asked with a gentle smile on his face as usual. He tried to hide his worries with a smile, but Sabrina could see through the facade. I know why you are worried, Andrew. Andrew raised his brows as Sabrina smiled. Dad isn't very good at keeping secrets from me, Andrew. Don't you know that? I know that, Andrew sighed as he chuckled. How is your brother Ollie? Sabrina asked Alicia. Alicia remained silent. The healers said they could only heal the physical wounds, not the mental ones, Norvin answered instead of Alicia. Sabrina sighed. What Ghost did to him was cruel and ruthless. However, Sabrina also knew Peter brought it on him by himself. No one asked Peter to dress up as a vigilante to ambush Ghost and other prodigies just to prove he is better than them. Time will heal everything, Imelda said. Alicia nodded, but she knew the mental wounds of Peter would never heal unless he could defeat Ghost and humiliate him as Ghost did to him. Andrew, I am asking you again. Are you sure you want to do this? Diana asked Andrew. Is there any other way we can convince Catherine's father? Imelda asked a question after Diana. Can Catherine tell her father she loves you? Sabrina asked. Andrew was getting bombarded with questions until Alicia opened her mouth. Why is everyone talking like he's going to lose? When we all, including me, thought Andrew couldn't do this, he came this far and proved us wrong. He will defeat Ghost, have some faith in him. Everyone was speechless for a few moments. They couldn't argue with Alicia's words. It's because I cheated, suddenly Andrew said, stunning everyone. Cheated? What are you talking about? Imelda creased her brows. Except for Diana and Alicia, everyone looked flabbergasted. Alicia knew about Noah's deal with Layla and her involvement in Andrew's victory. Diana, however, didn't know anything about Layla or Noah's deal with her, but she was able to tell that something was amiss. If it wasn't for Lady Alden, I wouldn't have reached this far. Lady Alden? Layla Alden? Sabrina literally started to shiver hearing the name. Without your mental resolution and willpower, you would have died taking my power. They all heard the melodious voice as they turned their eyes towards the hooded person. Sabrina saw the hooded one taking off her hood, covering her head to reveal her angelic face. Sabrina felt like she was going to faint. The woman in front of her was Layla Alden, one of the legends of this world. She had only seen Layla in the paintings in her Holy Trident Academy. Layla was a pride of all woman cultivators. She was the embodiment of woman power. "How far would you go for the girl you love, Andrew?" Layla asked as everyone stared at her in shock. "I give my life for her." Slap. The moment Andrew finished speaking these words, a slapping sound could be heard in the hall. Sabrina was stunned to see her always gentle and warm Aunt Imelda slap Andrew. No one could believe he got slapped by Imelda. "Are you really prepared to give your life for a girl you know for how long? A year? Or 2 years? What about us, your family? What about your mother?" Imelda was stuck between worry and anger. Her eyes were bloodshot. "You're gonna quit whining, go out there and defeat Ghost. Cheating or no cheating, you will defeat him. You know why? Because you have us." Her words did not motivate Andrew but somewhat calmed the storm within him. "If you can't defeat him, don't be stupid to fight till you die. Just say you surrender and we will figure out how to deal with everything that follows later." Norvin gave a piece of advice of his own. Unlike Imelda, Norvin doubted Andrew could really defeat Ghost. As much as Norvin wanted Andrew to defeat him, he was less optimistic about that. Diana was in a world of her own thinking. All the people in the room thought Ghost was some kind of monster. Ever since he was born, he has faced nothing but tragedies. And he faced everything life throws at him alone. She didn't know why they called him the Dark Lord when there are hundreds or even thousands of evil cultivators who were capable of great evil roaming the work as they speak. Meanwhile, in Michael's room, he was sitting in front of Calvin reading several parchments on the glass table. "Feel free to tell me if you have any changes to be made," Calvin said with a smile. "No changes required, Calvin. I hope you guys will have my back when the time comes." Michael inked the quill to sign the parchments as he spoke. "Don't worry, King Bredia won't go to war with you if you choose to reject the princess." Michael looked up at Calvin with his brows arched up. Michael was surprised to see Calvin grasp the upcoming problem without any explanation. "Like I said, I did my research. I know you are not going to accept the marriage proposal. Naturally, rejecting a king's offer would result in problems. But worry not, Thusia will have your back. This time, it'll be the one stabbing you in the back," Michael thought to himself. "It will be a pleasure to work with Thusians," as he said. Michael signed his name on the parchment. With this sign, he had officially become the guild leader of the Thusian Alchemy Guild. Finally, Michael stood up to shake Calvin's hands. "Welcome aboard, Ghost." After shaking Michael's hand with a wide grin on his face, Calvin handed over a space ring to Michael. "This contains some welcoming gifts from Thusia Ghost. I hope you like them." The final day of the tournament began with a drizzle. The dark rain clouds filled the sky like marching soldiers. The thunderclaps in the distance implied the upcoming heavy downpour. The arena was filled with chit-chat from the fans. Not a single person who wasn't in the conversation of who would win the championship. Of course, many voted for Ghost while only a few voted for Andrew. "Welcome to the finals, ladies and gentlemen." Ishihara's announcement finally brought down the volume of their chit-chat. But only for a few moments, though, as the crowd yet again erupted into cheers. "It has been a roller coaster ride, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think, guys?" James Hall asked. "I think we better start the final before they start a riot," Ishihara giggled. "Before we start the final, let us see the journey of the two finalists. Andrew Winston and Ghost." After Darius spoke, the giant mirror began to broadcast the highlights of both Ghost and Andrew's battles. Seeing both of their battles gave goosebumps to the commoners and raised their expectations to another level. The highlight reel went for almost 15 minutes. Looking at the reels, Alicia once again shivered in anger. She wanted to destroy the mirrors to oblivion when they showed Ghost mopping the floor with her brother. What disturbed her more was the people who roared seeing Ghost's ruthlessness. Sitting on her throne, Catherine clenched her fist tightly. Her heart pounded against her chest looking at the vial in her hand. The king was too focused on Ghost highlights reels to notice the vial in his daughter's hands. Finalists Andrew Winston and Ghost, please come to the battle stage. The entire arena was shouting the names Ghost and Andrew to show their support. The majority of the crowd was waving black flags. Under their thunderous cheers, Andrew appeared above the battle stage and slowly descended onto the battle stage. Andrew ignored all the cheers to focus on the upcoming battle. "Ghost! Ghost! 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 Ghost!" While Andrew was trying to ignore the shouts, he heard the arena erupt in cheers. He looked up to see Ghost slowly descending onto the battle stage with his black long coat fluttering in the wind. Unlike Andrew, Ghost seemed calm with his usual smile on his face. Shall we start, Andrew? If you like this chapter, please comment, send power stones. If you really like this chapter and my novel, consider sending me gifts as it would motivate me to put out more chapters. Any criticism, feel free to bash me in the comments. Chapter 368, the distant howling sound of the wind coupled with the thunderclaps gave off an ominous feeling. The violent wind made waving the signs and flags difficult, yet the wind couldn't completely stop them. Michael's long black coat fluttered in the wind behind, revealing the black turtleneck and the lines of his chest and abs. After asking Andrew, Michael looked up at the coordinators. Guys, can we start the battle now? I have a barony to look. Except for a very few, none of them thought of him as arrogant. Ding, ding, ding. Let the battle begin. As though the coordinators were working for him, they started the battle. Andrew stared at him with his 2 daggers in his hands. He was expecting Ghost to cast a spell. After watching all of Ghost's fight and strategizing with Layla and Sabrina, Andrew was somewhat prepared. Andrew, instead of unsheathing his swords, Michael smiled at Andrew. Dude, you can come up with new ways to get what you want instead of this. Regardless of what Noah did to the Silent Reaper, Michael didn't want to hurt Noah's family. They were nothing but good to him. He knew Layla was kinda using Andrew to prove to him that nothing's stronger and purer than love. He couldn't understand Layla's logic completely. This is the only way, Ghost, Andrew said as Michael sighed. So be it. Michael began to walk forward towards Andrew. He didn't cast lightning dash or any spell, he just walked towards Andrew without even taking out his swords. Gates of Valhalla. Andrew didn't waste any time. He immediately cast one of the strongest spells he has in his arsenal. The whole arena was silent as only the thunderclaps and the howling sound of the wind could be heard. They were staring at Michael and Andrew without batting an eye. The commentators were going about, but Michael or Andrew didn't hear what they were saying. Claire was looking at Andrew with pity. Reflective shield. Michael just uttered the word while walking towards Andrew. When Andrew cast Gates of Valhalla on Paul Oswin, he was crushed by immense pressure. However, when Andrew cast the spell on Ghost, nothing happened. Ghost was just a few meters away from Andrew. Emerald Thorns. After competing in a couple of life or death battles, Andrew's thinking and reflexes became quicker. Hence, instead of being stunned by the uselessness of the Gates of Valhalla, Andrew cast another spell immediately. From the 2 daggers in Andrew's hands, Michael saw emerald green spikes coming towards him like arrows. There were numerous spikes the size of an arrow pierced through the air to impale him. Andrew was shooting like he was holding 2 machine guns that fired spikes rapidly. Standing among the crowd, Layla's eyes began to water up. She spent months creating runes that could change her energy patterns so she would not be defenseless against Ghost. She used those runes to give Andrew the ability to fight against Ghost, hoping it would hurt him. Yet, neither the Gates of Valhalla nor the Emerald Thorns couldn't even graze him. Imelda's heart was pounding against her chest as Ghost got closer to Andrew. Ethan was rubbing his temples, hoping Ghost would go easy on Andrew. Oh no, he's in trouble, Norvin said with a grimaced face. Ice Shield. Andrew cast another spell to slow Ghost in his path. Michael saw a 7-foot wall made of ice erupt a few meters before him. The wall seemed to be at least a meter wide and looked sturdy. Everyone, including Andrew, expected Michael to destroy the wall using a spell or his fist. Unexpectedly, they saw Ghost deviate from the straight line he was walking on and walked around the wall instead of destroying the wall. Andrew, who placed an explosive rune that would bounce the attack power back to the attacker, had a troubled look on his face. All the opponents Andrew faced got defeated by either of the 3 spells he just cast. The spell had Layla's fusion stage power behind it, hence, a core formation cultivator couldn't take the attack of Andrew. However, Michael was immune to Layla's attacks. Therefore, Andrew, who had Layla's power, couldn't even touch him. Without Layla, he's as weak as a blind, sick puppy, Michael sighed inside. He actually felt pity for Andrew. After realizing long-ranged attacks were not working, Andrew changed his tactic. He activated the runes on his dagger as several golden symbols began to glow on the daggers. "Don't do it, Andrew," Diana mumbled under her breath, looking at her nephew leaping higher into the air to attack Ghost with his daggers. Since Andrew would not be able to learn swordsmanship in a few weeks, Noah taught Andrew how to fight with daggers. It had been a big help to Andrew in the tournament against other opponents. But Diana knew against a swordsman like Ghost who seemed to have mastered the swords, Andrew was like a child. Seeing Andrew descending upon him, Michael just shook his head disappointedly. The people were on the edge of their seats. Just when Andrew was a couple of inches away from him, Michael grabbed Andrew by his wrists in the midair. Andrew lost his momentum and control when Ghost grabbed him. His movement was extremely fast as Andrew didn't even see Ghost move his hands. Andrew's feet touched the ground. He looked Ghost in the eyes while struggling to get out of his hold. "If there's a next time, don't depend on others to fight your battles." Andrew felt his heart skip a beat hearing his words. His words sounded as though Ghost knew he was cheating in the tournament. The very next moment, Andrew felt immense pain in his head. The crowd saw Ghost head but Andrew so hard that the sound of their head clashing reverberated through the silent arena. Michael slowly trusted Andrew's wrists as Andrew's face muscles began to twitch in pain. He head-butted Andrew again without giving him much time to let out a cry of pain. A sound of bone cracking could be heard when Ghost head-butted Andrew. In the giant mirrors, they all saw Andrew's nose bent weirdly sideways as blood poured out of his nostrils. If it wasn't for the excruciating pain in his wrists, Andrew would have fainted. The world around him started to spin. Most people expected Michael to break Andrew's wrists, but he proved them wrong by slamming Andrew on the ice shield. Andrew erupted. Boom! The booming noise sounded across the arena while pebbles of ice crumbled down due to the force of Andrew hitting the wall. The force and pain immediately made Andrew cough up blood. Ghost slammed him again on the ice shield like Andrew was a rag doll. When he slammed Andrew the second time, the rune Andrew placed on the wall glowed as the ice shield exploded with immense force. "Andrew!" Imelda shouted from her pavilion. The ice vapor prevented the crowd from seeing what happened to Andrew and Ghost for a few moments. When the fog created by the ice vapor faded away, they saw Ghost was standing beside Andrew who was lying on the ground, coughing up blood. "Give up, Andrew," Michael said, looking at Andrew at his feet. He didn't even use a fraction of his power. Nonetheless, Andrew was almost at death's door. To Michael's surprise, Andrew pulled himself up after failing to stand up a couple of times. Seeing Andrew really surprised Michael. Andrew was indeed resilient. Still, Michael just shook his head before grabbing Andrew by his neck. Half of Andrew's face was covered in blood and swollen. "Taking a beating doesn't solve your problems, Andrew." Despite Andrew being his opponent, Michael advised him. For some reason, Michael felt bad for beating up Andrew. Perhaps it was because the Winstons were good to him, perhaps it was because he pitied Andrew. Nevertheless, he punched Andrew in the face. He didn't use much power as he didn't want to mess up Andrew's brain. As long as he could, he wanted Noah and Winston's not to be his enemies. Never surrender. These words barely escaped Andrew's mouth when Michael stopped punching him. "You're not helping yourself, Andrew." The crowd saw Michael clench his fist as veins popped up on his fist. The crowd gasped. They could guess the next punch would be several times more powerful than the previous ones. If this was a movie or a drama, Andrew would have gotten a sudden power boost thinking about his love and escaping Michael's hold. Since it was not the case and Andrew had no powerful being inside his ring, Andrew couldn't even move a muscle. He could just hope he wouldn't lose consciousness. "Space warp!" Suddenly Michael heard a shout. In a blink of an eye, his hair neck stood up sensing a threat. He immediately let go of Andrew to leap into the air. In the mid-air, he bent his back and landed on the battle stage comfortably. When he landed on the battle stage, he saw Princess Catherine standing in the place where he was a moment ago. She held Andrew in her hand. Tears kept rolling out of her eyes. Andrew, please wake up." "It's Kathy." The entire arena was stunned by the act of the princess. Even the commenters or the coordinators expected Princess to suddenly appear. Not even the arrays could stop her interference because the short teleportation spell she just used was a legendary spell. Michael saw a silver dagger in Catherine's place. His killing intent rose up, realizing she would have killed him if it wasn't for his reflexes and instincts. Catherine! Finally, the king realized what just happened. He stood up from his throne along with all the VIPs beside him. No one remained in the seats anymore. The princess caught everyone off guard. "I'm going to kill you." Michael, along with the entire arena, heard the princess let out a murderous grumble. Chapter 369. Princess, you are nothing, your majesty. The king's guards quickly surrounded King Bredia when he tried to rush to the battle stage. The coordinators, on the other hand, were stunned to see the sudden appearance of Princess Catherine. Since she used a powerful legendary-level teleportation scroll, they weren't aware of her arrival. Just as the coordinators were about to land on the battle stage, the princess leaped at Ghost with her daggers raised. Andrew could barely lift his hand towards Michael. He wanted to utter the words "don't hurt her," yet failed to do so. "You monster!" she shouted, swinging her daggers at Michael. Seeing the princess trying to attack Michael, Nightmare bore his teeth. Claire felt the dragon's body becoming hotter and hotter. Little 1-inch Claire brushed the dragon's head to calm him down. Claire wasn't worried about Ghost, she was worried about the princess. All the nobles in the VIP pavilions along with the commoners stood up from their seats. They all were either too excited or worried about the princess. "Monster me!" Michael chuckled while evading the dagger easily. "You heartless bastard!" she was shouting while violently swinging her daggers. Michael just kept moving his body with his hand behind his back. He could see the king flying towards the battle stage with his royal guards. "You have the courage for this, but not for talking to your father?" Michael snickered, swiftly moving his body away from her daggers. He moved like water, swift and smooth. "Kids shouldn't play with these." Michael suddenly flicked the princess' wrist as she lost the dagger. In a blink of an eye, he made her lose another dagger with another flick to her wrist. "See how weak you are." Michael threw the daggers outside the battle stage. "Stop!" The king's shout echoed through the arena. The princess' body froze. Her anger slowly faded away while she started to come back to reality. The king's royal guards immediately surrounded the princess. They were all at the core strengthening stage level 8 and wore full metal armor from head to toe. At the moment, they all surrounded the princess, staring at Michael through the hole in their helms. Michael didn't dare to hurt the princess as it would turn the entire Bredia kingdom against him. However, that didn't mean the princess would escape without paying the price for trying to kill him. "Kathy, what is the meaning of this?" The king's facial muscles twitched. He shivered in anger. Since everything went into a chaotic state, the coordinators paused the battle. Immediately, Sabrina flew to the battle stage along with the Winstons. Ghost won. Standing in the Rivertown Pavilion, Ricky, the sneaky bastard, shouted, riling up Ghost's fans. Soon, a few disciples followed Ricky's shout, then a group started to shout, and in a few moments, entire fans of Ghost were shouting in unison. "Ghost won! Ghost won! Ghost won! Ghost won! Ghost won!" The badass points began to go up yet again. "I love Andrew!" The princess' shout, however, sounded louder than the cheers. The cheers immediately stopped after hearing her words. "You can't make me marry another man. I will rather die than marry this monster." The king was too stunned to utter another word. In his whole life, he had never seen Catherine act the way she was acting at the moment. "You're nothing but a heartless bastard." Not even his parents wanted him. They threw him away like a piece of trash. "How can I marry this piece of trash?" Since Catherine couldn't hurt him with daggers, she started to spew hurtful words. Diana couldn't help clenching her fist. She wasn't the gentle Diana in her heart anymore. Harriet Hunt, who was buried within her heart, had returned. She wanted nothing but to rip off the prince's throat. "Me? Piece of trash?" Michael asked after realizing the king wouldn't say something to shut her daughter. He was too stunned to utter any words. No matter how strong you become, how rich you become, you will never be someone like Andrew. You will never have the last name, you will always be someone who was abandoned by your parents. Michael was getting really pissed off at the princess. He had nothing to do with their little scheme. If he was Andrew, he could have found 100 ways to get King Bredia's permission instead of depending on Noah and Layla to do something impossible. Of course, Michael had to give credit to Noah to put together a plan that would have gotten Andrew what he wanted in a short amount of time. If it wasn't for him, Andrew would have won the competition. If anyone should be blamed, it was Layla. As far as Michael was concerned, she should have told her vulnerability against him to Andrew or Noah. "Let me go," Nightmare grumbled. Claire's hands began to hurt due to the heat Nightmare radiated. There was no doubt that if she let go of the dragon, he would go burn the battle stage in fury. Even the gentle Claire began to feel anger boiling inside her after hearing the prince's words. Ethan creased his brows. He wanted to shout as loud as he could that Ghost is his son, not an orphan. However, he knew if he did that, the entire Sky Hall would come down on his son with their full power. Sky Hall wasn't something anyone could win against. Even the great clans wouldn't go against the Sky Hall. While the princess was cursing at Michael, Sabrina made Andrew drink a healing potion. The wounds on the outside and the internal wounds gradually healed up as Andrew slowly opened his eyes. Tsk. Michael shook his head with a narcissistic smile on his face. He looked around the arena before turning his gaze back at the princess. "Even though I am an orphan, I have an identity." The core disciple of the Sunrise sect, a prodigy, a man who reached the 100th step in Heaven's Gate competition, and Michael paused for a moment to look at the crowd once again. The 5-star alchemist of Bredia. His cold voice sent a chill running through everyone's spines. The smile on his face finally disappeared as he stared at the princess. "Without that princess title, what are you?" "Humph," Michael snickered. Many gasped hearing Michael's question. There was no fear in his eyes. No one would dare to disrespect a princess in public, yet Ghost did exactly just that in front of her father, the king, and thousands of people. Michael wasn't afraid of the king anymore. He now had 2 major powers behind him, the Kane family and the kingdom of Thusia. Take away that princess title and you are nothing, not even a piece of trash. Nothing. The princess shivered in anger. Even when Ghost was beating the crap out of him, Andrew never felt any anger towards Ghost. However, hearing him distract the girl he loves, Andrew's anger exploded within him. "Catherine!" King Bredia's shout reverberated in the arena. He was too mad at his own daughter to the point he failed to get mad at Michael for disrespecting her. Perhaps the king deep down knew the princess deserved what she got after cursing Ghost and acting like a spoiled brat. "I am not a puppet, you can marry me to whoever you want." Catherine stomped the ground. "I will marry no one but Andrew." "I am not afraid of you anymore, father." Catherine lost all her composure. Her attitude and her words made King Bredia's body tremble in overwhelming fury. Guards who stood closer to the king could hear the king's teeth-grinding noise. His breathing got heavier and faster. "You will marry this man," King Bredia pointed his finger at Ghost. Michael was so annoyed by the father and daughter duo. This was supposed to be settled inside walls, but the princess brought the family matter to the eyes of the public. Not only that, they dragged him into the middle of their family feud. In the corner of his eyes, Michael saw Calvin give him a nod, wordlessly expressing his support for Ghost. And just when Michael was about to reject the princess, Catherine began to chuckle as tears began to roll out of her hazel eyes. She looked at Andrew, who was being held back by Sabrina and Imelda. "Forgive me, father," she said, looking at King Bredia. Then she turned her watery eyes towards Andrew. "I hope I will get to live with you in the next life, Andrew. Please forgive me." As she said these words, a purplish vial appeared in her hands. "Kathy!" Andrew shouted as she dashed forward. No one knew what was inside the vial, but anyone could tell it was not something she should drink. However, it was too late as she already chugged the entire vial. Some of the royal guards tried to stop Andrew while the others caught the princess who was falling. "No! Kathy!" King Bredia and Andrew dashed at Catherine, shaking all the guards around them. In the giant mirror, the crowd saw Princess Catherine's rosy skin slowly turning purple. Blood oozed out of her nostrils, mouth as well as her eyes. Her body violently twitched. "Healers!" King Bredia fell to the ground and lifted his daughter's head. Andrew also came to the prince's side. He held the prince's hand. The king was too worried about his daughter to mind Andrew. No. The tears rushed out of Andrew's eyes. His tears watered Catherine's face. Seeing his daughter's body twitching violently in his arms, King Bridia's heart ached in pain. The flashes of him holding the princess for the first time when she was born flashed across his eyes. That was the happiest day of his life. At the moment, he was not a king but a failed father. Well, this is an interesting turn of events. Unlike Andrew and the king, Michael wasn't shedding any tears. He was looking at the princess with a blank expression. As far as he was concerned, they could just hold a funeral on the battle stage. He couldn't care less. All he wanted was the rewards, the barony. He had a few plans for the Bradford barony. If you like this chapter, please comment, send power stones. If you really like this chapter and my novel, consider sending me gifts as it would motivate me to put out more chapters. Any criticism, feel free to bash me in the comments. Chapter 370 Healers. Both Andrew and King Bridia screamed as loud as they could. Move! Suddenly a melodious voice sounded through the battle stage. The royal guards immediately tensed up looking at the hooded figure slowly descending from the sky. In the mid-air, the figure removed the cloak to reveal her angelic face. Looking at the face in the giant mirrors, hundreds of gasps sounded in the arena. Layla Alden, Ashton's brows raised up. After landing on the battle stage, she walked towards the princess. Stop! However, the royal guards shouted at her to stop. They didn't know who this woman was. They perceived her as a threat to the king. In a blink of an eye, a majestically crafted vina materialized in her hand. Ding! Her rosy, slender finger played one string as a powerful sonic wave hit the royal guards. The royal guards flung away from the battle stage as though they were hit by a powerful storm. The wave only targeted the royal guards, hence, the others remained on the battle stage. Who are you? King Bridia asked with a shivering voice. Lady Alden, Andrew shouted as a mix of relief and joy hit his core. He heard Noah talk about Layla's healing powers. Guards! King Bridia's mind went black seeing the purplish body of his daughter. He didn't want anyone else to harm his daughter. He was acting crazy in others' eyes. I wouldn't do that if I were you, King Bridia. You asked for healers and she's the best. Ashton finally opened his mouth. The wielder of Angel's Vina, Layla Alden, King Bridia felt a chill running through his spine. He had heard about the legend of Layla Alden but never thought he would see her in real life. Finally, a small sliver of hope emerged in his heart. Ignoring all the shocked faces, Layla walked straight towards. She knelt on one knee beside Catherine. The princess' rosy smooth skin had completely turned purplish. Her body wasn't twitching as it was a few moments before. Layla placed her hand on Catherine's forehead and closed her eyes. Please save her, Andrew mumbled while sobbing like a little child. This is too stupid, overdramatic, and illogical, Michael thought inside. It was not as he would have married her on the spot. He had everything figured out. He would have rejected the king's offer to marry the princess, and then, the king would have been forced to either postpone Catherine's wedding or choose Andrew, the second finalist, as the groom. It would have worked out if it wasn't for Andrew and his group's little idiotic scheme. While Michael was thinking how stupid they were, Layla opened her eyes. She took one of the deadliest poisons in this world, the venom of a five-headed serpent. Layla sighed. That's problematic. The king and Andrews turned their gazes towards Ashton to see him also sighing. Problematic is too weak a word. She's at the death's door. No shit. Michael chuckled inside, but as she heard his mind voice, she gave him a death stare. Michael just winked at her as she quickly turned her gaze away from him. You can save her, right? Andrew's voice was breaking up in overwhelming sadness. He could barely utter these words through the lumped throat. She took the venom of the female five-headed serpent. I can keep the poison from killing her for an hour maximum. If you want to save her, you need to find a male five-headed serpent, get its venom, make an antidote, and give it to her. All within the hour of time. Guards! The king shouted for the royal guards. They still couldn't pick themselves from the ground or fight the dizziness after being hit by Layla. Take everything you need and bring me a male five-headed serpent. The king shouted the order. It's not that simple. King Bridia. Calvin shook his head. He didn't feel pity but pretended to be sad. Michael could see through Calvin's facade. Calvin might have put on a grieving face. Inside, he couldn't care less about what happened to the princess. Five-headed serpent is a rare creature which can only be found in the deepest pits of the fire realm. Even if someone goes the fire realm within an hour by some luck, finding it and killing it within an hour is impossible. Just as King Bredia would shout at Calvin for being negative, Ashton also sighed. He is right. It's impossible. I don't care if I have to send an entire Bredian army to the fire realm. I will not let my daughter die here. King Bredia held Catherine's close to his chest. Even if you find everything in an hour, brewing the antidote would take longer than an hour, Layla said. Andrew and King Bredia felt their hopes die within them when they heard Layla. She was the best healer in the world, yet even she didn't seem like she could save Catherine. No, 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 Catherine, you can't leave me, you all I have left in this world, the king cried. Many commoners couldn't help shedding tears looking at the scene. It was a tragedy and everyone felt sad. Unless you have me. Suddenly they heard Ghost's voice as everyone turned to look at him. Michael smiled, flicking his wrist as a chair appeared on the battle stage before him. He sat on the chair backward and looked at the king, Andrew, Layla, and the Winstons. Sitting in front of the king without asking his permission was a crime in Bredia. It was a sign of disrespect towards the king. Thus, the king could imprison Ghost if he wanted to. However, Michael knew when to back off and when to show his claws. The king would do anything for his daughter. At this moment, Bredia wasn't the king, it was Ghost. How far will you go to save your daughter, your majesty? He asked the king with a smile. What do you mean? The king was confused. Let me rephrase my question. Sitting on the chair, he flicked his vest once again. The very next moment, a glistening silver vial appeared in his hand. Looking at the vial, Layla opened her mouth, decided not to speak anything, and closed her mouth. A long time ago, Ethan and Diana found a five-headed serpent poison antidote in a ruin. They could tell that the vial in their son's hand is several times purer than the antidote they saw. There was no doubt in their minds that the vial in Ghost's hand could save the prince's life. If it was Noah, they knew he would have given the vial no matter how priceless it was to the princess to save her life. Ghost's smile on his face made them doubt he would give the vial without getting something in return. What price would you pay for this? The antidote that can save your daughter's life. That's how what? The king mumbled as Andrew stared at the antidote without batting an eye. He was speechless. Wow, that's really the antidote. Calvin's words brought King Bredia out of his confused state. Once again, the light of hope emerged in everyone's heart. Give me that. The king reached his hand out. Tisk tisk. Michael shook his head. Are you telling me that the princess' life is worth nothing? Guards! The king's fury exploded within him. He shivered as he called for the royal guards. This time, they were only a few meters away from the battle stage. Suddenly the vial cracked in Ghost's hands. The king and Andrew's hearts skipped a beat seeing the cracks forming in the vial. With a little bit more pressure, they knew the vial would crumble into pieces. Andrew shouted. I will give you everything, please, give her the antidote. Shut up, Andrew. You have nothing to give me. This is between me and His Majesty. Layla didn't even try to talk to Ghost. However, her heart was aching to see how heartless he was. He can't be my child's father, Layla said to herself. The hopes of changing him into a better person slowly began to die inside her. Despite what he did to her, she wanted to give him a chance for the sake of her child. She knew how hard it would be for a child to grow without both parents. She didn't want her child to feel that pain, but it seemed like her child would be better off without Ghost as the father. Michael knew nothing about what was going on inside Layla's mind. His gaze was on the king. How could you play with your daughter's life again, Your Majesty? You know this vial is so delicate. What if it got destroyed when your royal guards come running to me with their heavy armor? What? You want? King asked, gritting his teeth. Although he was burning with anger, he knew that his daughter's life was more important than his anger. The king was willing to pay any price to save his daughter. She's dying. Imelda couldn't keep her mouth shut anymore. You're holding her life as a bargaining chip. How? She began to stutter in anger. Could you be so heartless? Me heartless? Michael tilted his head. Just a few minutes ago, Her Royal Highness tried to kill me. You all heard what she said to me. Still, I'm willing to give the antidote to her instead of keeping the antidote a secret. I almost died getting this. And you're calling me heartless. The entire arena knew he was holding the princess' life as a hostage. No one in the right mind would believe he's not a cold, heartless bastard. Yet he talked like a kind, generous person. Many people were looking at him with their mouths wide open. Your Majesty, I only want you to keep your word. I want what's rightfully mine and a few other things. I don't want to make the princess' life cheap. It's not fair. Michael was having fun with the king. He couldn't care less about what others would think about him. The princess tried to kill him. The king stood there watching Catherine spew hurtful things. Andrew tried to take away what should have been his. Michael wanted everyone to pay the price. Throne doesn't make you a king. Power does. Michael snickered inside, looking at the helpless, desperate king in front of him. Any idea what Michael would ask from the king? Chapter 371. Everyone single one in the arena had their eyes on Michael. They were waiting for what he was going to ask the king. No one let out a sound. If someone dropped a pin right at this moment, it would make a loud sound. The arena was deadly silent. Michael stood up from the chair, put his hand behind his back, and took several steps towards the edge of the arena. I don't give a damn about who wins this tournament. All I care about is the rewards. So, as you promised, Your Majesty, I want the Bradford barony. No one gasped hearing his words as they did after his next words. I want you to announce Bradford, the river town, and all the surrounding areas as an independent kingdom ruled by me and the Sunrise sect. Ashton knew Ghost is an opportunist and power-hungry young man, but when he heard Ghost just ask the king to make him a king, he felt goosebumps. Calvin, on the other hand, praised Ghost wholeheartedly. If King Bredia let go of Bradford, the river town and the surrounding areas as Ghost asked, it would certainly make Bredia weaker. However, the king had no choice unless he was willing to let Catherine die. Any weak kingdom was a prey to be hunted and merged into the Thusia Empire. Hence, Calvin supported Ghost's claims. We have to do something, Peyton. Arrest him and make him give up the antidote, Zanali growled, looking at Ghost. As a guardian, Peyton wanted to stop Ghost from toying with the princess' life. Yet even without Peyton's complete realization, the seed of hatred towards Noah sprouted in her heart. One could not blame Peyton. She dedicated her life to Guardian Guild. Unlike other beauties, she had no boyfriend, she didn't have fun, she didn't host galas or balls, she only focused on serving the Guardian Guild. In return, she expected the guild to treat her fairly. When everyone thought Lucifer was just a run-of-the-mill psycho killing people at night, she was the one who suspected him to be a big threat. She put together the operation that led to the destruction of his base and almost caught him. Instead of her getting praises and the rewards she deserved for the work she did, Noah ended up leading the team. Moreover, the Alpha Guardian was talking about making Noah a Guardian captain instead of her. She was 14 years old when she started to work for the Guardian Guild. What she couldn't get in 14 years, Noah got that within a year. It was not fair, she thought. If we interfere, he might destroy the antidote. This is between him and the king. But, Peyton, I said this is between him and the king. Her voice sounded colder as Zanali quickly closed her mouth. On the other hand, Claire and the elders were speechless. Claire wanted to stop Michael, ask him to give the princess the vial first, and then negotiate with the king. Claire wasn't as hypocritical as the others. She very well knew the princess had no right to berate Ghost like she did. In the future, if he needed that antidote, he wouldn't have one. There was no need for him to give that vial for free. However, Claire pitied the king and Andrew. She wanted Ghost to first save the princess and then negotiate with the king. But she was also not as naive as she used to be. Her mind told her that if Ghost gave the king the antidote, there was no way the king would give him everything he asked. The king could even arrest him for negotiating with him. She's dying. Elder Sandra tried to stand up but was stopped by Elder Reiner. Did you all forget that the princess tried to kill Ghost? If he was 1 second slow, it would be him lying on the stage, Elder Reiner said with his usual bright smile on his face. Elder Reiner, we teach our disciples humanity, kindness, and forgiveness. What he's doing is against everything we stand for. Claire was in a conundrum hearing the conversation between Sandra and Reiner. Both of them seem to be in the right. Look at the king, he's not the king of Bredia anymore, he's just a desperate father. We should help him, Elder Sandra said. Elder Sandra, Elder Reiner yet again stopped her by holding her wrists. Do you remember the times we went to meet King Bredia asking for a loan? Elder Reiner's question brought back some bad memories. Claire especially gritted her teeth. The elders lost pity for the king after what Elder Reiner asked them. Let me refresh your memories. The king of Bredia, His Majesty asked Claire to be his concubine. Do you want me to spill out what he really wanted? The smile on Reiner's face disappeared. For the first time in their life, some of the disciples saw Elder Reiner looking cold. He was always a warm, kind and witty person. And do you want me to remind the times the king ordered us to accommodate a part of the Bredian army who harassed our female dispels and raped some of them? Elder Reiner's words got colder and colder. He didn't give a damn about those girls. Those girls were traumatized for their life. 50 gold coins, that's what the king gave them. Kindness, humanity, and forgiveness is for only those who deserve it, Elder Sandra. Elder Sandra was out of words for a few moments. We can't let the princess suffer for what her father did, she's innocent. She tried to kill Ghost because of love. Meanwhile, Michael was looking at the king's trembling. Each second passed by, the king's worry overshadowed his anger. A kingdom obviously can't survive without financial and military power. After all, Your Majesty won't feel good if someone else took away something you generously offered. Michael paused for a second, looked at the people staring at him with wide-opened mouths and continued, I won't ask for much but 1/3 of the Bredian army and financial support for a full year until we get back on our feet. The king almost spurted out blood hearing his outrageous requests. Financial support he could provide as Bredia was a preposterous kingdom. However, giving up 1/3 of the army would weaken the military power. I also want a peace treaty with Your Majesty. We can't have some stupidly loyal general wage war against my kingdom, can we? Some of the people of Bradford were worried about his request. They were worried that they would be led to poverty under the rule of a cruel, ruthless person like him. However, the people of Rivertown were incredibly joyful and excited. They knew their life was much better after Ghost joined the Sunrise sect. He wasn't even a ruler of the town, yet he did so many things that the king never bothered to. I won't ask for anything else except for a little tour around Your Majesty's treasury. Since I'm giving such a valuable item, I'm sure Your Majesty would want me to take something else in return. Her condition is worsening, Layla said, looking at Catherine's body twitching violently. Ghost, please. I beg you, give me the antidote. Andrew pleased. I will. I'm just waiting for His Majesty to agree to everything I asked. I will. Give me the antidote. King Bredia yelled, but Michael shook his head. I want the official documents with your sign, Your Majesty. You bastard. The king couldn't keep his anger contained. Relax, Your Majesty. What if you throw me in jail after getting the antidote? It's better we go with official documents, am I right, Calvin? Michael turned to look at Calvin nod. Of course, documents are better than just words of agreement. Meanwhile, Catherine's were violently twitching as purplish blood oozed out of her pores. The purplish blood painted her body purple. Ghost, it will take time to draft documents. Can't you just take His Majesty's words? Ethan asked, trying to convince Ghost. He didn't want his son to make an enemy out of the king. Although he still couldn't believe how cruel and ruthless his son is, he didn't want Ghost to become an enemy of an entire kingdom. Calvin, Michael turned his gaze away from Ethan to Calvin, how long will it take to draft the official documents for His Majesty to sign? If you desire, I can draft the documents in 15 minutes. Of course, Michael snickered inside. Earlier when he signed the parchments related to the guild leader position, Calvin did not bring with filled parchment but just wrote the clauses in front of him. Thus, Michael knew Calvin could come up with documents before Catherine died. King Bredia, shall I start preparing the documents? Calvin asked. His inner corners of the eyebrows were angled up. He was really good at pretending to be sad. No, he can't, the king mumbled under his breath. What Ghost asked was not something he could give up so easily. The nobles and the people would definitely cause a massive headache if he agreed to Ghost. It might even throw the kingdom into chaos. At first, he wanted to say okay, get the antidote, save his daughter and come up with something to prison Ghost. That way he could have said he won't negotiate with a criminal. However, if he signed official documents in front of thousands of people, Ghost would become a ruler of another kingdom. King Breedia had no power over another ruler. Plus, if he signed the documents, Ghost would get 1/3 of the Bredian army. Coupled with the Kane family's support, Ghost would be untouchable. Even if he waged war against Ghost, Breedia would still lose their remaining troops. It would result in weaker Breedia. Lady Alden, how long can you hold off the poison? Layla didn't even want to look at his face, still he answered him for the sake of Andrew and the princess. 20 minutes, King Breedia's heart was pounding against his chest. He started to sweat as he shivered. Oh, cutting it close. Tick-tock, Your Majesty, talk. If you like this chapter, please comment, send Power Stones. If you really like this chapter and my novel, consider sending me gifts as it would motivate me to put out more chapters. Any criticism, feel free to bash me in the comments. Chapter 372, Cruel Bastard, the king growled. He felt utterly helpless. He wanted to rip the antidote out of his hands and hang him right in this instance. Kathy was right, you are a monster. After everything that happened, the king had realized why Catherine chose to take her own life instead of marrying Ghost. Although King Breedia never wanted to marry Catherine to anyone except a warrior, he would rather marry Catherine to someone like Andrew than Ghost. The king could see the love, care, and grief in Andrew's eyes. It was pure love. The king blamed himself for not asking Catherine who she wants to marry. It was his anger and stubbornness that made his daughter drink poison. The smile that lingered on Ghost's face suddenly disappeared. He knelt on one knee before the king. Your Majesty, do you think I don't know what you asked in return for a loan my elders asked a year ago? His voice suddenly sounded colder. You tried to use their desperation to take sect leader Claire as your concubine. And we both know what concubine really means to a person like you, except for the elders of the Sunrise sect and a few nobles who were very close to the king. No one knew about the king's request. It was Jack who told Michael about the request. At that time, Michael didn't know he would meet the king in person and negotiate with him over the prince's dying body. Since Claire was an exceptional beauty, Michael knew it was natural for people like the king to court her. However, when the king tried to act innocent and called him a monster, he decided to let everyone know the king's actual innocence. The king was speechless. Something made the king shiver inside looking at Ghost's eyes. He felt like a beast looking directly into his soul, waiting to devour him alive. The king felt so weak before him. And should I remind you of the time you offered 50 fucking gold coins as a remuneration for the girls who were raped by your soldiers who stayed at the sect due to your order? Michael patted the king on the back before standing up. If you care about them so much, you should have found a way to punish him, but you're punishing an innocent girl. Imelda raised her voice before Andrew's. Innocent? Ha! Suddenly, to all of their surprise, Michael burst into laughter. It was the princess who decided the price of 50 gold coins. 50 gold coins, not for each, but to all 8 girls. They were supposed to share the coins among themselves, based on what? Who was raped worse? What the actual fuck? Many commoners gasped in shock. Those who felt pity for the princess and hated Ghost now seemed to see the princess in a new light. The princess decided a girl's innocence was with 7 or 8 gold coins. No one is innocent in this world. Everyone is a villain in someone's eyes. But, Andrew mumbled, what? If the roles were reversed and the king had the antidote, do any of you think he would have offered it to me for free? He looked around the arena to see no one nodding. So why should I? Ghost, right at the moment, Calvin brought the documents. He handed over the parchments to Michael. Finally, Michael took away his gaze from the king to the contents of the parchments. He read the entire 10-page document in a minute. I don't have to prove anything to anyone here. It's your Majesty who has to prove your love. You can either sign this and save your daughter or watch her slowly die in your arms. The choice is yours. Michael threw the parchments towards the king. I assume you have 10 minutes to decide, Your Majesty. Sign the damn thing. Andrew took the parchment from the ground before throwing it on the king's face. The king's hands shivered. On one hand, he had his flying daughter. On the other hand, he had something that would divide his kingdom and probably throw the kingdom in chaos. Your Majesty, This is no time for thinking. Please, sign them and save your daughter, Ethan said. With his shivering hand, the king finally signed the document. His heart was pounding against his chest. Ricky was feeling goosebumps along with the other disciples. It seemed like only yesterday he saw a full black-clothes youngster at the gates of Rivertown. Now the youngster was about to become a king of his own kingdom. He wished Daniel was here to witness this historic moment. "Hail your majesty, Ghost!" Ricky couldn't hold back as he shouted as loud as he could. "Hail your majesty, Ghost! Hail your majesty, Ghost! Hail your majesty, Ghost! Hail your majesty, Ghost! Hail your majesty, Ghost!" Gradually one by one the people of Rivertown and the Sunrise Sect disciples roared in unison. Ignoring the shouts, Michael reached his hand out as the parchments flew straight into his hands. He checked the documents for a few moments before nodding with a smile. "Keep the end of your bargain." Layla reached out her hand. "Of course." Michael threw the antidote to Layla. "Kid, you became a king." Ashton was still in shock. He never expected the tournament would turn out to be like this. He rejected the princess to gain a kingdom of his own. Moreover, he had also gained 1/3 of the Bredian army to command. King Ghost, it does have a nice ring to it. While Clavin, Ghost, and Ashton were busy discussing the future, Layla gently poured the antidote into Catherine's mouth. The moment the antidote touched Catherine's lips, her body jerked. Soon, her body gradually started to lose the purplish color as her skin slowly turned rosy again. "Kathy!" The tears of joy poured out of both Andrew's and the king's eyes. Everyone was looking at the princess, waiting for her to open her eyes. Only Diana looked at her son, Ghost. Most people, including her own sister, were thinking of him as evil, but they failed to understand that if it wasn't for her son, the princess would have died. He saved her. "Catherine," Andrew saw Catherine slowly open her eyes. She looked at Andrew and then the worried face of her father. "Father, you brat." King Bredia embraced so tightly and close to his chest. Andrew couldn't wait to hug her, tell her how much he loves him and how much she just hurt him by trying to take her own life. Their union of love continued for a couple of minutes before Catherine saw Ghost reading a long parchment seriously without even taking a look at her. Slowly she started to wonder how they managed to save her. She was told it was nearly impossible for someone to save her after drinking the five-headed serpent's venom. Layla stood up as Andrew thanked her, holding her hand. Sabrina quickly came to stand by Layla's side. The Winstons surrounded her. Layla couldn't just chase them away. As a person who trained to fight evil, Layla developed a seventh sense that indicates her most evil being. Aside from evil beings, she could all sense darkness in someone's heart. When she first met Ghost, she sensed the darkness in his heart. However, she ignored it as everyone in the world had darkness in their hearts. Weirdly, except Noah. She didn't find any darkness in his heart. In the corner of her eyes, she noticed Diana Winston staring at her. Surprisingly, Layla felt a chill. "You!" Catherine gritted her teeth. "It's okay, Catherine. Everything's fine." Andrew patted her shoulder. The king didn't mind Andrew. He had already decided to marry Catherine to the man she truly loves, Andrew. "Hey, a princess." Like nothing happened, Ghost smiled at Catherine. Catherine saw he was brimming in joy. His face was bright as someone lit a candle inside his head. The royal guards as well as her father stared at Ghost with their bodies shivering. Deep inside her father's eyes, she saw immense worry and anger. She could tell that something big had happened while she was unconscious. "Father, what happened?" "Ghosty," everyone heard a childish voice as they saw the dragon land on Ghost's shoulder. It was not as big as before but shrunk its body to the size of a grown eagle. Claire sent off little Cindy to her mother before the final. Claire didn't want Cindy to see Ghost ruthlessly beat the hell out of Andrew. The little girl had seen enough blood and gore for her age, Claire thought. Following Nightmare, the elders and Claire came flying towards Michael. Since they all reached the core formation stage, they could fly without the help of flying swords. Except for Elder Reiner, who had a wide grin on his face, the others looked stunned. Michael could see the reluctance in their eyes. "Master Ghost," Ricky came to his side on a flying sword and landed beside him. "Oh, forgive me." He quickly knelt on one knee. Your Majesty, Ashton chuckled lightly before patting Ghost on the shoulder. You have a lot to deal with. But come by the manor in 3 days, we will hold a gala celebrating the marriage. You must come, of course, Lord Ashton. Lord Ashton immediately took off, disappearing into the skies. Soon, Calvin also left the stage before further mingling himself with the king's problem. Although Calvin wasn't afraid of King Bredia, he was afraid of Layla Alden. In Layla's eyes, he saw a glimmer of anger towards Ghost before, when she looked at him. Calvin didn't want to get onto her bad side by being too friendly with Ghost. We need to talk. Just as Michael was about to talk to Claire and the elders, he heard Layla's voice. All the eyes on the battle stage and the arena turned back to look at Layla and Ghost. Some guessed Ghost just made Layla mad enough to get his ass kicked. Can we talk later? I am kinda busy here, many gasped in shock. They couldn't believe he was actually ignoring a country-toppling beauty. Most of all the men in Elon would die to just have a short conversation with her, yet Ghost shrugged her off. Layla, however, didn't say anything more but came to his side. She grabbed his elbow. In a blink of an eye, she took off into the sky with Ghost. Nightmare couldn't even understand how he landed on the ground. She was too fast. What just happened? If you like this chapter, please comment, send power stones. If you really like this chapter and my novel, consider sending me gifts, as it would motivate me to put out more chapters. Any criticism, feel free to bash me in the comments. Chapter 373. The breezes climbed the mountain slopes until the air became cool enough to condense its vapor to drizzle. On the mountain top, the rocky peak, everything beneath seemed so small yet beautiful. Michael and Layla landed on this lonely mountain peak. Along with thunderclaps, the streams of lightning on the horizon indicated the coming heavy rain. Layla stood on the edge of the mountain peak, looking at the distant horizon. Michael remained silent, expecting Layla to speak whatever was in her mind. As though she was battling a war inside her, she opened her mouth, took a deep breath, and closed her mouth again. I assume you don't bring me here for sightseeing, said Michael. I need to tell you something. No shit. Michael took several steps forward to join Layla on the edge of the mountain peak. Layla turned her head sideways to see his calm face. She just stared at his face for a couple of minutes before finally letting out a heavy breath. I am pregnant with a spirit child of yours. Michael almost fell down from the mountaintop. His calm face immediately took a 180 turn. His heart started to pound against his chest as he slowly remembered what happened inside the treacherous ocean. System, Michael growled in his mind. What? The system informed you that there is a chance of a spirit child forming inside her. The system made sure the spirit child won't inherit any of your characteristics and talents. The child will see the world in a few weeks. For the first time in a long time, Michael's mind went blank. Since the system told him there's only a tiny chance of a spirit child to form inside her, he subconsciously hoped there won't be a spirit child. Not at this moment, but he never wanted to be a father ever. Every time Gaia talked about having children, he always changed the topic or ignored her. The last thing he wanted was to have a kid and raise that kid in this fucked up world. Nonetheless, fate played another game in his life. Layla, that's what happened between us was my fault. While Michael stuttered, Layla opened her mouth. I know how hard it is to grow up without a father in this world. She turned her gaze back at the distant horizon. The fate and my fault together forced you to be the father of my child. I want to give my child a family, Ghost. I really do. For the first time, Michael saw Layla's eyes tearing up in sadness. Even after he spirit walked her, she was furious but not sad. At least he didn't see her sad. But you can't be my child's father, Ghost. Not after everything I've seen. I would rather raise my child alone than letting the child inherit the darkness inside you. Are you fucking kidding me right now? Michael lost his cool when he heard Layla. Although he was not perfect father material, he couldn't keep his mouth shut when he heard her talk about darkness. You people are talking like I'm the only bad guy in this world. You think Andrew is a saint because he is in love with the princess and was prepared to die for her. His anger towards the people's hypocrisy overshadowed his worry about the spirit child. Andrew killed a guy who never showed any intention to kill him with your help. So according to you, is it okay to kill a guy for love? Layla sensed a murderous aura radiating from him. He was sick and tired of people judging him and branding him as the big villain. The so-called guardians had done worse things than him. If someone ranked the evil in this world, he would certainly be not first, except everyone thinks he's on the top spot. He almost mixed up his Lucifer persona with Ghost when he talked. No one is an innocent ghost. I'm not naive to believe otherwise. But there's something inside you, growing stronger every day. I'm not afraid of you, I'm afraid of that darkness inside you. Michael clenched his fist. Perhaps it was coincident, or perhaps it was influenced by Michael. The sky suddenly turned darker. When you lose to the darkness within you, and you will if you continue your path, I don't want my child to be enveloped by the same darkness surrounds you. After these words escaped her mouth, silence enveloped the mountaintop. Except for the claps of thunder, no sound could be heard in the area. With loud booming sounds of thunder, the heavy downpour made its appearance like a sudden guest. The downpour was so heavy that each drop was as large as a cartoon tear, and they fell like gravity had been turned up a notch. In a few blinks of an eye, the two of them were completely drenched in rain. As though the rain had washed off the burning anger inside him, Michael sighed. My so-called darkness won't harm your child, Layla. Layla saw a smile dosed with gloom on his face. You know, I never wanted to have kids of my own. Even with Ilya, he looked at the distant horizon. I was abandoned by my parents. The last thing I want to do is to do the same to my kids. But you are right, the spirit child will be better off without me. I never considered that maybe my parents too abandoned me because they thought I am better off without them. The thunderclaps reverberated the mountain top as though they were agreeing with Michael. I know even you don't understand, but if your child asked about its father and why he abandoned him, tell the child I had no choice and I did it for its own good. It is the truth. Michael was almost certain that his enemies would find a way to use the child against him. He was trained to take out any potential enemies before they could become a threat to him. He always abided by this rule. Still, even when he knew the child would be turned against him by his enemies, he decided to let the child be. The child was innocent and pure. He knew how painful it is for a child to grow without a family to feel belonged to, without a mother to love, without a father to guide and protect. Michael had already punished this child by deciding to leave the child instead of being a father to it. He couldn't get himself to hurt the child anymore despite he knew the child might become a threat to him in the future. However, remember this, Layla. He turned back his gaze from the distant horizon to Layla. Protect your child. Layla was threatened by the sound of his grave voice. Protect from who? Me. Another thunderclap boomed just after he said, Do not let your child be used against me. My enemies will stop at nothing, and so do I, Michael warned. Although he decided to spare the child, if the child tried to kill him in the future, Michael would end the child's life in a blink of an eye. Even if he didn't, Gaia definitely would. Ghost, for the sake of our child, why can't you just leave everything behind you and come with me? Although she already decided not to let Ghost be a part of the child's life, after hearing him, she tried to change him one last time, for the sake of their child. The tears drops mixed with water droplets rolled down on her rosy cheeks. I can't, Layla. Even if I wanted to, I just can't. Like you said, it'll do more harm than good to the child if I'm around. While tears rushed out of her eyes without her control, she saw him walking towards her. He lifted her palm before placing a rather normal-looking chain with a coin-sized sun attached to it in her hand. Maybe if I didn't meet Ilya and fall in love with her, we might have ended up different instead of being like this. Layla saw a smile that hid the sorrow in his heart. He picked up the chain as she put it around her neck. She wanted to stop, yet she simply couldn't. The child is lucky to have you as its mother, Layla. Every single fiber in her body wanted to embrace him despite how he made her feel before. All the anger, fury, and everything faded away from her heart in an instant. But before her heart could overpower her mind to make her embrace him, he took several steps back from her. Both of them looked into each other's eyes in silence for a couple of minutes. Then Layla said, I want something else from you, Ghost. This will be the last thing I would ask from you. Her voice was shaking in a mix of emotions. Ask, I need your blood to give the child a physical body. That dash. Her words were interrupted when she saw him unsheath his sword from his back. Without uttering a single word, he cut his palm with his razor-sharp sword. The thick dark blood oozed out of the large cut. A vial immediately appeared in his hand as the blood drizzled into the vial, rapidly filling it with his blood. The vial slowly floated towards her as he turned back. The blood was still gushing out from his hand. Spoiled milk is still white, Layla. Everything you see and believe is not always right. Raise your child, showing it how this world really works, Layla. He looked over his shoulder to give her one last look. Goodbye, Layla. As a strange emptiness and sorrow were filling up her heart, she looked at Ghost disappear into the dark clouds. Chapter 374. The barony of Bradford was built amidst the flora of a mighty jungle and was truly a classic phenomenon. Its appearance was matched by the backdrop of grand forests which have helped shape the barony to what it is today. The trade resources these forests brought were of great importance, but they were also influential when it came to architectural designs, as the vast majority of buildings have been built with many natural elements to keep in line with the forests. The skyline was riddled with either elegant 2-story or majestic 3-story buildings. Life was great in Bradford. It had attracted a lot of attention. A few new cultures had left their mark not just on trade and relations, but also upon the barony's identity. Bradford Barony contained 2 towns, Bradford and Rivertown. The 2 towns were separated by lush, vast forest and Hinling River. The main road connecting the 2 towns was well maintained and paved with white stone. Thus, the road was called Pearl Road. Red maple trees stood on either side of the Pear Road as though they were the guards of the road. At the moment, a heavy downpour was watering the maple trees as the trees kept waving in the wind. Except for 2 carriages pulled by Pegasi, nothing could be seen on the road. In one of the carriages was the first king of Kingdom Bradford. Unlike other kings, this king traveled with neither a battalion of soldiers nor a group of royal guards. It's beautiful. Michael pulled the curtain aside to see the dancing red maple trees. The last time he visited Bradford, he flew above the trees. Hence, he failed to see their magnificence. So Ricky, what do you know about Bradford? Michael's question brought Ricky back to reality. He never thought he would become a right-hand man to a king. From a lowly gate guard to the right-hand man of a king, he couldn't believe the turn his life took ever since he met Ghost. Well, your majesty, the barony. Shit, Ricky slapped himself in the back of his head. Kingdom of Bradford has 2 towns, Bradford and Rivertown. Though they call Rivertown a town, the town was in decline along with the Sunrise sect until you joined the sect. However, Bradford town prospered under the rule of Baron Totunk. Sigh. Michael heard Ricky let out a heavy sigh. What? Your Majesty, it's that I feel pity for Baron Totunk. Is that so? Michael asked, gently brushing the head of sleeping Nightmare on his lap. Rumor has it that ever since Lucifer killed and hanged Miss Jane's body atop the manor, the Baron has lost his connection with reality. People say he has gone mad. What do people say about Lucifer? Michael asked as he had no idea about Lucifer. The name Lucifer made Ricky shiver. Unlike some cultists secretly worshipping Lucifer as their god, Ricky never wanted to meet Lucifer. The sight of Jane's horribly mutilated body gave him a nightmare. Ricky had seen his fair shares of murders and deaths, but what Lucifer did to Jane was something else. Ricky doesn't blame Baron Totunk for going crazy, as any father who loves their daughter would go mad in his shoes. Ricky, Michael called him again as Ricky came back to reality. Some people say he's the devil and wanted the church and guardians to catch him so they could sleep at night again. Rumors have some people are worshipping Lucifer as their god in secret. Ricky heard Ghost chuckle from inside. Your Majesty? Ricky failed to what could possibly be funny about what he just said for Ghost to chuckle. If you know they worship Lucifer, they are not doing a good job in keeping secrets, are they? If it is true and you know it, the church and guardians know it too. There will be no surprise if both of them hunted these worshippers down. Michael could use these worshippers to strengthen the Order of Death again. However, it was too early to recruit civilians. Next time he streams himself, he might ask for people to stop worshipping him just for their sake. If they continue to worship and end up being hunted by the guardians or the church, they should blame themselves. Your Majesty, when will the army reach Bradford? In a week, according to the King Breedia. Your Majesty, can I ask you something? Michael sensed a sliver of reluctance in Ricky's voice. Sure. Were you going to really let the princess die? I mean, if His Majesty did not give what you wanted, what would you have done? The king was lucky I didn't kill that bitch then and there when she tried to kill me. Michael's words stunned Ricky. Stupid bitch and that stupid asshole Ricky came with the most idiotic plan. Good thing you didn't kill either of them, Your Majesty. Killing the princess would have turned Bredia against you, while killing young Master Andrews would have made Winstons your enemies. You know, the Winstons were nothing but good to the sect. That's the reason Andrew is still alive. But after everything that happened, I doubt Andrew would be grateful to me for letting him live. Michael leaned on the seat, resting his head on his fist. He should be Your Majesty. Although the final ended up without a winner, everyone knew you would have won if it wasn't for the princess' interference. I'm thankful to that bitch though. If it wasn't for her stupid act, I wouldn't have gotten a kingdom. Michael's cold chuckle sent a chill running through Ricky's spine. Let's talk about you. How is your cultivation going? What stage are you on right now? Michael could see Ricky's cultivation stage. Still, he asked to see if Ricky lied to him or not. He was thinking about giving Ricky and Daniel some important roles in his kingdom, but before deciding anything, he wanted to make sure they are absolutely loyal. Since he has the system, it was easy to determine their loyalty. He just needed to make them their subordinates. At this level of the system, he could have a maximum of 11 subordinates. He already had Gaia, Raylene, Sadie Kaplan, Arya, Maxine, Azazel and Tiberius. After the tournament, he had more than enough points to completely heal Arya's two brothers. With them, he would have 9 subordinates. Michael was thinking of making Ricky and Daniel the remaining 2 subordinates. Although Ricky and Daniel were not as strong as most of his subordinates, they were loyal to the core and hardworking. From this point onwards, loyalty wasn't the only thing that mattered to Michael. He needed powerful subordinates who could fight his battles for him. In simple words, he wanted to be the final boss. Body refining stage level 10, Your Majesty. I feel like I can reach the body strengthening stage in a few months. Michael was glad to see Ricky telling him the truth. What about Daniel? Sigh, Ricky sighed again. Poor guy is stuck at body refining stage level 8, Your Majesty. It was obvious to Michael Ricky and Daniel has no talent for cultivation at all. He had given them hundreds of thousands of gold coins worth the pills and potions. Still, they were stuck at the body refining stage. If it wasn't for the pills and potions, there was no doubt they wouldn't have reached the body refining stage. After we settle things in Bradford, come see me with Daniel. You two are too weak. We need to fix that. Ricky felt goosebumps all over. Everyone in the world loved power and Ricky was not an exception. If anyone could turn Ricky and Daniel into geniuses, it was Ghost. As the rain showered them from heaven, they made their way to Bradford town where the Baron's manor was located. The people who didn't attend the tournament had no idea that their barony had become a kingdom of its own and their new king is Ghost of Rivertown. Through the window, Michael saw the city wall in the distance. Nightmare curled on his lap, sleeping peacefully. Ricky saw a bunch of archers standing atop the city walls. Regardless of the heavy rain, they were patrolling on the wall's top. In front of the main gate of the city, a couple of armored guards remained outside. Since the carriages had the flag of Sunrise Sect on top, the armored guards didn't dare try to be arrogant as they waited for Ricky to slow down the carriage. Open the gates. Ricky's voice and demeanor were not of a meek kid anymore. He sounded as though he was ordering the armored guards to open the gates. The armored guards wore helmets covering their faces. Thus, Ricky couldn't see the annoyed expression that appeared on their faces. Michael was waiting patiently for Ricky to deal with the guards. He didn't mind how Ricky sounded. As far as he was concerned, his subordinates should not be spineless cowards. The Baron has ordered us not to let anyone inside or outside, one of the 5 armored guards said in a grumpy voice. Why? Ricky frowned. The Guardians and the Baron are conducting an investigation. It's our order not to let anyone in or out. Unless Baron gives us an order to let you guys in, we can't do anything. Another guard spoke, but he wasn't as grumpy as the guard who talked just a moment ago. Do you know who is inside the carriage? Ricky had the courage to talk to the armored guards with his chest up because of Ghost. He was not the gate guard Ricky anymore. He was the right-hand man of the king himself. Soon these guards would bow their heads to him. Who? The grumpy guard couldn't take any more of Ricky's arrogant attitude. "Your king." Chapter 375. The armored guards as well as the archers who heard Ricky were stunned. They were speechless for a couple of moments. They lived long enough to know that the king of Bredia wouldn't come without royal guards and several carriages in front and back. Besides, they received no information about the king coming to Bradford. The last time they heard, the king was going to the tournament. "Here, show this to them." Through the gap between Ricky and him, Michael sent the parchment containing King Bredia's seal to Ricky. Michael didn't want to cause any acne by beating the crap out of the gate guards. After all, they were just doing their jobs. Although Michael knew they were just doing their job, he felt the urge to beat them when they were standing in his way. He could feel something is changing inside him. It was a feeling that couldn't be described. Even Spectre and the hitmen of the dark underworld massacred the orphanage Michael loved. Michael didn't torture them. He just killed every single one of them, including the girl he loved who did not inform him about Spectre's plan. Never before he experienced the urge to torture except when he met Calvin. He wanted to torture everyone who betrayed Abras. He wanted to cause chaos. He asked the system about his new feelings, but the system had no answers. Yet, Michael could feel something different about him. The guards saw the young man taking a parchment from whoever was inside the carriage. Since the tournament winner celebration was meant to be held tomorrow, they never thought Ghost or any participants would come to Bradford. As far as they were concerned, the two carriages that have the flag of the Sunrise sect were occupied by the guests of the sect. Ricky jumped down from the carriage while keeping the parchment under his fur coat to prevent the rain from drenching it. "Who knows how to read?" Ricky asked as the guards looked at each other. Finally, an archer from the wall slid down from the ladder to come to them. Among the 12 guards in the vicinity, only one seemed to know how to read. Ricky wasn't surprised though. It was not a requirement for a soldier to know how to read or write. Education was for the nobles and the rich. If it wasn't for Ghost's strict order to learn how to read or write, Ricky would have been just like them, illiterate. "Here." Ricky handed over the parchment to the archer. The armored guards were staring at the archer and the parchment in his hand. They might be illiterate, but they could tell the parchment definitely came from a royal or noble, seeing the quality of the parchment. The archer opened the parchment carefully to read the content. There weren't even minutes passed by when the archer's hands shivered as his eyes wide opened as though they were about to pop out from their sockets. "What is it?" the other guards asked. Instead of answering, the archer swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Bradford has become a kingdom." The archer's voice trembled. And the archer stuttered. "What?" the other armored guards asked the archer after a few moments of silence. Only the sound of heavy downpour filled the area. The soldiers couldn't believe the archer. Ricky couldn't see the expressions on their faces, but he could guess they were completely stunned using the silence. The archer kept stammering. All the soldiers had to wait for the archer to utter the name of their new king, is Ghost of River Town. As though the skies were waiting for the archer to utter these words, the moment he said the name, the thunderclaps reverberated through the city. "What you are holding is the king's decree and in one of your new king's hands. My first order to is open the damn gates for your king, his majesty Ghost." The armored guards looked at each other. "Open the gates," the archer said. His look on Ricky completely changed. Each soldier had several questions running in their mind. The soldiers slowly opened the giant wooden gates to reveal the town of Bradford. With a swift jump, Ricky landed back on the carriage. After spending time as Ghost's subordinate, Ricky picked some of Ghost's attitudes. He even started to wear full black clothes like Ghost. As the carriage slowly moved forward, Michael looked at the town through the window. The streets were empty as Michael saw not a single soul on the roads. However, he could see the eyes looking at the carriage from inside the building. When Michael looked at the sky above the town, he noticed several figures in complete golden armor flying away from the town. "Holy guards," Michael mumbled under his breath. Although the church had not intervened in his life as much as the guardians, they were still a threat. He had been trying to establish a connection with the church to see if he could make them his ally. If they were his ally, he could spy on them, learn valuable information, and turn them against the guardians. The others, including Ricky, thought Michael had forgotten Jack since he doesn't talk about Jack or his death. In truth, Michael had never even visited Jack's grave, not even once. Gaia took care of Jack's family. They were millionaires now as Gaia gave 1,000,000 gold coins to their family as well as promised to take care of them and their bloodline. The Guardians would pay for Jack's death. Everyone involved in Jack's death would pay the price with their lives. It seems like the Baron and the Guardians ordered a lockdown, Your Majesty. But why are there no guards on the streets? Ricky asked while looking around the town. Like most of the towns or cities in this world, Bradford was also divided into 3 parts. Commoners lived in the outer part of the town. This part also contained shops such as smithy, bakery, and miscellaneous stores. The middle part of the town had lesser nobles who were either declined noble families or branch families of main nobles' families and rich merchants. If one wanted to find a jewelry store or a bank, they should look for them in the middle part. Only the ruler, royal family, and prominent noble families lived in the center. It was the richest part of any town or city. Although the difference between the town parts was not as drastic as Royal Land or the capital of Bredia, Michael could see the buildings look majestic as they moved towards the center. The last time he visited Bradford, he wanted to open up a shop in Bradford. Unfortunately, Jane Totonk met him in the alchemy store in the middle part of the city. If she hadn't met him that day, she would have been alive. As the Pegasi galloped towards the center, Michael vaguely saw what might be the Baron's manor in the distance through the window. There were several guards in full-plate armor patrolling the surrounding area. The structure, as well as the atmosphere of the manor, reminded Michael of Ham House in England. He wondered how this world has so many similarities with Earth. Inside the Baron's manor, Baron Totonk lay on his throne with a large ale bottle in his hand. There were several ale bottles lying around him. The walls of the throne hall were void of any paintings, but there were signs of paintings hung on the wall before. Only a group of fluffy armored soldiers as well as an old man with a long gray beard remained by the Baron's side. The old man had a wooden staff that had an orb of fire hovering atop. "Lord Totonk, what should we do with them?" the old man asked, looking at the 3 figures kneeling in the hall. All 3 figures had their hands tied and heads covered with brown sacks. The brown sacks were soaked in blood. "Our spies informed that their families have contacted the Guardians and they are bringing them here. Did they tell you something?" Baron Totonk asked in a grumpy voice. His eyes were bloodshot. He reeked of alcohol and piss. The noble-looking Baron Totonk they served was nowhere to be found. After Jane's death, the Baron had become a new man. "Unfortunately, no, my lord. They seem to know nothing about Miss Jane's demise." "Humph. Demise? It was a fucking murder," the Baron snickered before smashing the ale bottle on the throne. "I don't care if I have to burn this entire fucking barony to find who killed her." Baron Totonk clumsily walked towards the 3 nobles kneeling on the ground. "Lucifer, Goosifer horse shit. It wasn't the devil who killed her, it was someone in this fucking barony. I can feel him, he's here somewhere." Lord Totonk, when he was about to fall down due to his drunk state, the old man tried to dash towards him to catch him. "I'm fine." The Baron raised his hand, stopping the old man in his path. Unlike my baby, tears began to roll out of the Baron's eyes. Seeing a grown man cry like a baby made the soldiers feel a heaviness in their hearts. The Baron may have gone crazy since Jane died, but the soldiers never left the Baron's side. The Baron was a good man. They never thought such tragedy would fall on him. Although Jane was a spoiled brat, she didn't deserve such gruesome death. Even the seasoned warriors felt nauseous seeing her mutilated body. Since these 3 doesn't know anything, the Baron stood a few inches away from the 3 nobles. "They can go to hell." Baron immediately drew his dagger out as the nobles let out a muffled cry through the sack. "Stop!" Just as the Baron was about to send the dagger into the noble's neck, the manor door opened to reveal a young man. "Who the fuck let you in?" the Baron asked as the soldiers moved towards the Baron to put up a defensive formation. "By the power of your new king, I'm ordering you to lower your weapon." "Huh?" The soldiers and the old man was stunned after hearing the words coming out of the young man's mouth. "Who are you, young man?" the old man asked. He could see the courage in the young man's eyes. He lived long enough to tell that this kind of courage was only possible if someone powerful was behind this young man. "In one of the hands of the king, His Majesty Ghost." Chapter 376. Ricky's words made Baron's Totonk's hangover disappear for a couple of moments. The soldiers and the old mage standing beside the Baron's throne had a "what the hell is this kid talking about" look on their faces. Ghost. The name brought back the memories of Jane trying to convince him to arrest Ghost. The Baron knew she spent the last of her days being mad at Ghost. He was the only one who messed with her and remained unscathed. At that time, his duty as a Baron seemed more important than caring for Jane's tantrum. After she died, Baron Totonk couldn't care less about this barony and his Baron status. In his drunkard state, his anger shifted from the nobles to Ghost. The Baron either interrogated or killed everyone who had the motive and reason to kill Jane except one person, Ghost. Just like Ghost, Baron Totonk also knew Lord information. According to the elf, there were some ancient spells that could open a temporary portal connecting the outside world and the nether realm during the 7 days. The Baron couldn't help thinking if Ghost used some means to come outside, kill his daughter, and return to the nether realm. It'd be a perfect crime, as no one would believe someone could come out of the nether realm before the opening of the portals. Even if Ghost had nothing to do with Jane's death, by punishing Ghost, he could give what Jane asked him. He thought of this as her last wish. His Majesty Ghost? Huh. The Baron burst into laughter. Ricky saw his laughter turning eviler by the second. When the rumors began that the Baron had gone mad, Ricky didn't believe it. However, seeing him laugh like this, Ricky started to have second thoughts. What kind of booze you drank? Ghost, King. The old mage realized something was going on here as he walked towards the Baron. Erase the King's decree. Ricky was smart enough to realize that if he continued to talk to the Baron, something bad could happen. Ricky saw drunkards start fights for no reason during his time as a gate guard. He quickly retrieved the parchment from his space ring and handed over the decree to the old man standing beside the Baron as he looked calm and composed, unlike the Baron. The Baron took a long gulp of booze while the old man was reading the parchment. Soon after the old man read the parchment for a couple of seconds, a glimmer of shock and surprise appeared in his old eyes. His hands even slightly shivered. My lord, with his eyes wide open, the old mage turned his gaze towards the Baron. My lord, the old mage called again to take away the Baron's attention from the booze bottle in his hand. Smash. The Baron smashed the booze bottle on the head of the noble prisoner before him. Ricky was stunned as he took a step back in fear. He looked over his shoulder, waiting for Ghost to walk into the hall. Ricky kinda started to regret coming here alone. He would have waited outside if it wasn't for Ghost and Claire taking a stroll around the manor to get to know the landscape more, as Ghost would live here after today. He's telling the truth. This is not barony anymore, it's Kingdom of Bradford. What rubbish are you blabbering? Give me that. The Baron pulled the parchment from the old mage's hands. Despite the hangover, the Baron could read the metallic black letters on the golden parchment. Ricky and the old mage both saw the veins on the Baron's forehead popping out. They could hear the sound of Baron's teeth grinding against each other. His body trembled as they sensed a cold, murderous aura filling the hall. So this is how they repay me and the Totonk legacy? The Baron said, crumbling the parchment. That bastard. Ricky wondered if the Baron was cursing the king or Ghost. Either way, Ricky knew the Baron would not leave peacefully, not with his current state. There is nothing we can do, my lord. Compared to Ricky, the old man had so much life experience. He could tell for sure that the situation is going to escalate to another level. Although what King Bredia had done was ungrateful and borderline disrespectful, they could do nothing. After signing the parchment, even King Bredia had no power in Bradford anymore. Bradford belonged to no one but Ghost himself, as he is the king from today onwards. Oh, I disagree, Yanab. I can still do this. As he said, the Baron immediately dashed at Ricky. Unlike everyone in the room, Ricky was not very experienced in battle. His reflex and reaction time was way slower, as Ricky didn't even realize what just happened until he got lifted up by his neck. Ricky felt the grab around his neck getting tightened. He started to struggle to breathe. My lord, the old mage tried to stop the Baron but was stopped in his path by a death glare came for the Baron. Let him go, Baron. Suddenly a melodic voice reverberated through the throne hall. Although Ricky sighed in relief, he wanted the Baron to let him go so he could breathe. The Baron and everyone saw a girl with golden hair gracefully walking towards them. Her eyes contained a sliver of anger. Sect leader Claire, Yanab recognized the girl. It has been almost 2 years since Yanab has seen Claire. She didn't seem like the girl he saw 2 years ago. Let Ricky go before he comes here, Baron. Claire came to stand beside Ricky. She was more concerned about what would happen to the Baron and his men if Ghost saw this rather than being mad at the Baron for treating Ricky like this. You think I'm afraid of him? The Baron was obviously not thinking it clear due to his current state. Claire knew that. I'm telling you for your own sake, Baron. If you aren't afraid of him, you should be. Now let him go before this escalates any further. Did he kill my Jane? Still, the Baron hadn't let go of Ricky as Ricky's face started to turn purple. No, what are you talking about? We all know who killed her, whoosh. Just when the Baron was about to say something and Ricky was going to faint, a powerful gust of wind blasted away the Baron and Yanab. Claire heard the crackling noise of lightning bolts coming from behind. My lord! The soldiers immediately rushed towards the Baron to project him as well as help him stand on his feet. Ghost? Claire turned back to see Ghost standing in front of her. The golden lightning bolts danced around his right hand while his left hand had a sleeping nightmare. The 3 noble prisoners were wiggling on the ground. Their heads were covered. Hence they had no idea what just happened. They just felt a powerful gust of wind pushing them onto the ground face first. I want to send you with the respect you deserve, Baron Totonk. Don't make it difficult for you. Take a walk and calm yourself down. Claire couldn't help sighing in relief. She almost thought Ghost was going to massacre everyone. Recently he was becoming very unpredictable as though he was a ticking time bomb. There were 12 people in the hall excluding Claire, Ricky and Ghost himself. Baron Totonk was at the core formation stage level 3 while the old mage was at core strengthening stage level 3. The rest of the guards were only at core formation stage level 6. If Michael wanted, he could kill every single one of them including the old mage. Honestly, he wanted to kill them, he wanted to massacre them. He was resisting killing them with every fiber in his body. Take them away, sect leader Claire. Michael doubted he would be able to stop himself from killing them. System, what the hell is wrong with me? Michael asked the system before turning back to leave the throne hall. System level is too low to answer the host's question. Please upgrade the system level. So something is wrong with me? Fuck. Michael cussed inside as he walked towards the door to leave the throne hall. He could feel the bloodthirstiness increasing inside him at a monstrous speed. At this rate, he would really be the Dark Lord everyone was so afraid of. Stop! Claire saw Baron Totonk screaming as loud as he could. His eyes were bloodshot red. It was obvious the Baron was furious. Regardless of the Baron's scream, Michael didn't hear him. He was too focused on controlling himself from massacring everyone. He continued to walk away when Claire saw a ball of purplish fire appear before the Baron's hand. Don't! Claire was too late as the Baron threw the fireball at Ghost. It was not a powerful spell, just a miscellaneous spell used to chase away low-level beasts. The spell was quick to cast as well as it was a chantless spell. The fireball soared through the air like an arrow. Just as it was about to hit Michael, a light blue translucent shield appeared around him. The fireball disappeared when it hit the shield. Claire's heart skipped a beat when she saw Ghost halt his steps. He slowly turned back as she saw the veins on his face popping up. He was literally shaking and Claire had never seen Ghost shiver in anger. Ghost! Claire approached him cautiously because something didn't feel right to her. Do not test me. Chapter 377. The words that came out of Michael's mouth sounded unearthly. It sent a chill running through Claire's spine. A wave of fear hit the core of the armored soldiers. Unconsciously they took a step back. Michael was on the verge of going berserk on them. Every being in his body wanted to slaughter them mercilessly. Did you hurt my Jane? Baron Totonk grumbled. You know what? Michael was tired of people accusing him with no evidence. Although he ordered Gaia to kill Jane, there was no evidence that tied the murder to him. He knew even if he hadn't done anything to Jane, these people would have accused him anyway. Everyone stared at Michael's face to see what he was going to tell. He took a few steps forward as Claire's heartbeat continued to rise. He breathed between every word. He was battling with himself to block the thrust for chaos. Arg! Suddenly Michael growled in pain. He lowered his head as he placed Nightmare on the ground. Yawning, the little dragon slowly opened his eyes while yawning. Claire and Ricky saw the side of his face while the Baron and his men could only see the top of his head. They could vaguely hear him mumble something under his breath. "Give what?" the Baron asked, gritting his teeth. His grief and booze he drank made him lose all the reasons. "Give a fuck about what happened to that bitch." His words stunned the Baron. It took the Baron a couple of seconds to sink in what he just said. Michael's voice became more animalistic, it was unearthly. When the words finally reached the Baron's head, he stomped the ground in anger. "Shit, something's wrong with Ghosty." Abruptly the door to the throne hall shut closed with a loud bang. After the door shut closed, suddenly the curtains covering the windows also began violently fluttering in the wind. The wind was so powerful that it forced Nightmare and Claire to step backward. Claire wasn't worried about Ghost but worried about the soldiers and the Baron. Regardless of the sudden darkness that enveloped the throne hall, she walked towards Ghost to calm him down. "Let's go." As she walked closer to Ghost, she heard his words. The violent wind somewhat calmed down. Noticing he addressed Claire with no title, she knew something was wrong. She wanted to take him away from the soldiers and the Baron. His voice sounded normal rather than animalistic as before. "Ricky, we are leaving." Claire ignored the Baron, ordering Ricky to leave the throne hall before Ghost did something that everyone would regret later. She even doubted they would be alive to regret their decision to mess with him. "I'm gonna rip that tongue out, bastard." Baron Totonk trembled in anger before leaping into the air. A gigantic war hammer-plated silver materialized in the Baron's hands in the midair. "Moon wave." Claire stomped the ground, turning back. She pointed her finger at the Baron as a sparkling crescent-shaped wave shot out of her fingers. The blade gradually became wider and bigger as they flew towards the Baron. Before the Baron could react to the crescent blade, the wave hit the Baron and sent him flying backward as though he was a kite without an anchor in the storm. Except for the old mage Yanab, the soldiers didn't see what just happened. Claire's movements were lightning fast. "Back off." Claire stomped the ground once again as the ground split open. The cracks formed until they reached the feet of the soldiers. Yanab was pleasantly surprised by Claire. She seemed to be at the peak of core formation. The old man wanted the Baron to accept their fate and move on, but he saw the Baron stand up with shelved hair, trembling in anger. A battle was inevitable, Yanab knew. "What are you morons looking at?" "Kill them." Nightmare flapped his wing to appear before Claire. He immediately transformed himself. The soldiers shivered seeing an 8-foot dragon staring at them with puffs of smoke coming out of its nostrils. Nightmare's crimson scales began to glow in bright orange. "Baron, you really don't want to do this. I can hang you for disrespecting your king." Claire glanced at Michael to let them know who he is now to them. He was still showing his back to them. "You stupid idiots." Once again, Michael's animalistic voice echoed through the throne hall. "You wish for death so bad." The violent stormy wind returned. The howling sound of the wind gave an ominous feeling. "Ghost?" Claire tried to touch his shoulder as he finally looked up, showing his face. When he turned around, Claire's heart skipped a beat. She felt a chill running through her spine. Unconsciously she stepped back and so did Ricky. There was no white in his eyes anymore, except for his pupils, everything turned pitch black. His pupils were fiery red, like a demon. Lightning bolts began to form around his arms as he walked towards Baron Totonk. He may have become a king, but the soldiers and Yanab's instincts to protect their lord kicked in. Regardless of a dragon standing before them, they rushed towards the Baron. "Ghost, stop." Claire dashed at Michael when he was just a couple of meters away from the Baron. "Don't." Claire heard his cold, beastly voice before getting blasted by an invisible force. "Mary!" Nightmare shouted when Claire was sent flying by Ghost. With a flap of his wing, he dashed at Claire. However, the force that hit Claire was far greater than anyone could imagine. She hit the wall, creating a loud thud before falling down to the ground unconscious. Michael seemed to give no shit about what happened to Claire. He continued to walk towards the Baron. Hallowing bolt, Yanab immediately pointed his staff at Michael as a bolt of purple energy blast shot out of the staff. The responsive shield immediately appeared to absorb the blast, but since Yanab was at core strengthening stage level 3, it couldn't completely absorb the attack. The remaining force hit Michael, sending him sliding away from the Baron. I will grant your wish. His pupils glowed brighter while the golden lightning bolts dancing around his arm became thicker. They produced constant crackling noises of electricity. The bolts of lightning coiled around his arm like hundreds of tiny snakes. The entire throne hall became darker. Regardless of the daylight outside, it was like evening inside the throne hall. Ignitia! Michael raised his arm as a bolt of powerful lightning bolt fired out of his arm towards Yanab. The death range enhanced his power exponentially. Before Yanab finished casting a defense spell, the bolt of light reached him. If it wasn't for the old man's quick reflex to leap just in time, he would have had a hole in his chest. "Protect Lord Totonk," one of the loyal soldiers shouted before dashing at Michael with his sword held high. Ricky couldn't help shivering looking at the soldier running towards Michael. Ricky saw Ghost remaining there without even moving an inch. Poch! Just when the soldier was a couple of seconds from cutting open Michael in half, the soldier froze in his path. "Nard!" the fellow soldiers screamed. Behind their helmets, they were horrified. A hand was sticking out of Nard's metal-covered behind. The hand had a red oozing blop in its hand. Ricky's face turned pale as he realized the oozing blop in Ghost's hand was nothing but a human heart. The heart was still beating in his hand, but it was soon crushed into a paste by Ghost. Ricky immediately threw up. When Michael retrieved his hand, the soldier collapsed onto the ground. Looking at Ghost staring at them with blood dripping down to the ground from his hand, a dread hit the core of the soldiers. Still, they were surrounding the Baron and waiting for Yanab to help them. If anyone could help them, it was their court mage. "Anyone who stands in my way," a devilish grin slowly emerged on Ghost's face. It was not a smile that radiated warmth. On the contrary, it was a smile that created a tingling sensation in their spines in fear. Ignitia! Just when Yanab was casting another spell, Michael sent another lightning bolt. He didn't even look at Yanab, he just raised his hand while keeping eye contact with their soldiers. Yet again Yanab dashed out of the lightning bolt's trajectory. Currently, there were 9 fully armored soldiers surrounding the Baron. Even for someone at the core formation level 10, 9 fully armored soldiers as well as a core strengthening stage mage was a huge threat, but not for Michael. The death range was cast by him without his command. It catapulted his overall strength to core strengthening stage level 6. One step at a time, Michael walked towards the soldiers. He kept tilting his head left and right while grinning. Chaos Blade, Savagery of Strength. 2 soldiers simultaneously cast spells that boosted their strength. They dashed at Michael. One soldier's metal armor began to glow in bright golden color while the other one became bulkier like the Hulk. They dashed at Michael from both sides. Michael grabbed the sword in one soldier's hand while grabbing the bulkier soldier by his neck. Before the two of them could wiggle, Michael simply snapped the bulkier soldier's neck. The bulkier soldier collapsed onto the floor with a thud sound. The soldier struggled to release the sword from Ghost's hand, yet he couldn't even move his sword an inch. The other soldiers wanted to join the fight, but they couldn't leave the Baron unprotected. Hence, they saw Ghost pull the sword from their college's hand like taking candy from a child's hand. Clink. As Michael took the sword, he snapped the sword in half. Poch, 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 poch. The soldier tried to dash backward, but he was too late. Michael plunged the broken arrow directly into the soldier's shoulder through the metal armor. Without showing a shred of mercy, Michael kept rapidly stabbing the soldier until the soldier's lifeless body fell onto the ground. However, his brutality didn't stop at that. He stomped the soldier on the chest, crushing his chest. Death and chaos. So beautiful. Yesterday I wanted to release 2 chapters, but this chapter wasn't up to the usual standards. So I deleted the entire chapter and rewritten it so the chapter will be worth your time and money. Sorry for not keeping my word. Chapter 370. Mary, open your eyes. Nightmare shrunk himself. He rubbed Claire's face with his hand to wake her up. Ricky was staring at Ghost rip the hand off of a soldier and beating another one to death with the bloody hand. He couldn't see the brutality anymore as he turned his head towards sect leader Claire. There was a hole in the wall where she hit before falling onto the ground. Fiery frenzy. While Michael was busy stopping a soldier to death, Yanab screamed, casting a powerful fire spell. Immediately a stream of lava shot towards Michael from his staff. Humph! His crimson red landed on Yanab. The old mage felt a chill. He could feel his soul shudder in fear. The soldiers saw Ghost standing there without even moving an inch. In a few seconds, the lava stream hit his body, but weirdly the stream went through him. Only then did they realize it was an afterimage as the figure of Ghost faded into thin air. They quickly moved closer to the Baron. He was still trying to push them away and fight Ghost himself, but the soldiers were manhandling the Baron to protect him. Suddenly Yanab's instincts kicked in as he felt someone's behind him. He tried to dash away, but a hand grabbed him by the back of his neck. Yanab opened his mouth to cast a quick spell, but another hand closed his mouth. "You should have left when you had the chance," Yanab heard Ghost's voice. It didn't sound like the voice of any human. It was something different, cold, murderous, and bone-chilling. "Now you are going to die, Enel." The Baron screamed at Yanab, but it was too late for Yanab. His head exploded into nothing but red mist. "Lord Yanab." The soldiers couldn't believe he killed Yanab. Yanab was the most powerful mage in Bradford. He studied with the royal court mage of Royal Land himself. The old man settled in Bradford to live his old age in peace, yet because of the Baron he died a horrible death. 2 decades ago, when the Baron was a young man, he saved Yanab from a beast attack. The two of them become like father and son. Hence Yanab loved Jane as his own granddaughter. Hence when he heard she was murdered by Lucifer, he immediately came to Bradford. Yanab always had the feeling that the Baron was in danger. That was why he stayed by his side ever since Jane died. Also, the old man wanted to find who killed Jane. "Shit, quick, escort his lord outside the manor. We will hold him off." 2 soldiers came forward while the rest of them grabbed and rushed towards the door. Too late, as they heard his voice, the soldiers saw him disappear from Yanab's headless body. In a blink of an eye, he appeared on their path. "Let me go, I will kill him." The Baron tried to wiggle out of the defense formation. "Ghosty, stop, let them go," Nightmare shouted at Michael to stop him from massacring the soldiers. Unlike the Baron who tried to kill him, the soldiers did nothing but their job. They were innocents and they did not deserve such brutal death. "I will let them go," the soldiers couldn't help sighing in relief. For a moment, they really thought the dragon saved them all. However, when they heard his next words, they were horrified. "To hell." The lightning bolts gradually disappeared as the dark crimson-red flame coiled around his arms. They moved around his arms as though they were tiny snakes. Nightmare noticed he was casting spells without uttering the name of the spells. Until one reaches the fusion stage, they wouldn't be able to perform chantless spells, yet he was using spells without casting them. Moreover, the lightning bolts and now the flames seemed like they were being manipulated to his will instead of the cast using arch energy. If someone from the Sky Hall saw Michael, they would be speechless. No one in the world except some higher-ups knew about the existence of ancient gods. Elemental manipulation was the power wielded by the ancient god themselves. No mortal could even grasp the basics of elemental manipulations, yet Ghost controlled 2 elements, lightning and fire. "Go! We will buy you as much time as we can." The 2 brave soldiers knew they couldn't stop him, yet the oath they took to protect the Baron gave them the courage to face Ghost. The one who was at the fault was the Baron himself. If it wasn't for him picking up the fight with Ghost, those soldiers and Yanab would have still been alive. "For the Baron! For the Baron!" The 2 soldiers dashed at Michael, letting out a loud battle cry. Nightmare flapped his wing to dash at Michael before he could kill the 2 soldiers. The dragon wanted to save Ghost from himself. The Ghost he knew would have never killed them. He was cunning and calculating. However, at the moment he seemed like a new person. Even when he was in his Lucifer persona, Nightmare had never seen him lose his cool. He always remained level-headed. More than ever he missed Gaia now. If anyone could stop Ghost, it was Gaia. "Get her out of here," Nightmare flew at Michael after instructing Ricky to get Claire out of the throne hall. "Ghost!" Nightmare was flying towards him. The soldiers were dashing at Michael. The soldiers were escorting the Baron towards the door, and Ricky was taking Claire away from Ghost. Everything seemed like it was happening in slow motion to Michael. He never felt this strong before. Those soldiers and everyone in the room seemed so puny. Feel like barbecue. As Michael grinned, he raised his arms as two scorching hot streams of fire shot from both his hands. Arg! The fire enveloped the two soldiers. Their screams of agony echoed through the manor's walls, but soon, their cries disappeared. In the place they stood before remained nothing but a pile of hot ashes and two scorched skulls. Ghost! Nightmare cried. Just as the dragon was about to reach him, he turned his gaze to look at Nightmare. Seeing the crimson-red eyes staring at him, Nightmare felt a chill. In the corner of his eyes, Nightmare saw finally Ricky leave the hall with Claire. He felt somewhat relieved in his heart. But the moment the door shut behind Ricky, the entire hall turned dark. Only Michael's red eyes and Nightmare's glowing crimson scales could be seen in the hall. Regardless of the sudden blackout, Nightmare could see Michael's figure. He was getting taller and bulkier. Suddenly a bright white light flashed across Nightmare's face. The light made him close his eyes, and when he opened his eyes, he was lying on the bed in Lucifer's underground mansion in the dark forest. Back at the Baron's manor, Baron Totonk heard his soldiers cry in agony. The sound of bone and metal crunching lessened his hangover. The darkness in the hall coupled with what he saw made the Baron feel a tingling fear in his heart. "Fucker, where are you?" Baron growled. "What kind of sorcery is this?" Baron was unable to comprehend how he turned the day into night. As he was trying to cast a light spell, a wave of hot liquid splashed on his face. In a few moments, the hall completely became silent. He could literally taste blood in his mouth. He knew the hot liquid was the blood of his men. Once again the war hammer materialized in the Baron's hand. He was prepared to defend himself and kill Ghost. However, he didn't see Ghost. Instead, he vaguely saw the red glowing eyes moving away from him. The warhammer radiated a faint light that enabled the Baron to vaguely see Ghost standing before the three noble prisoners. He could hear the nobles mumble, but soon, he heard the sound of a dagger slicing through flesh and blood. The Baron continued to see the red glowing eyes moving around the hall as though Ghost was looking for something. "Fucker, me like a man? Tisk, am not a man." The Baron heard his voice coming from all directions. He couldn't pinpoint where he was talking from. The Baron started to wave his warhammer all around, hoping to hit Ghost. "I am much more than just a man." The Baron swung his warhammer violently, turning behind as he heard Ghost talk from behind. "Let's talk about what a failure of a man you are," Baron heard Ghost snicker. "You were searching and punishing whoever might have killed your daughter." Baron swung his warhammer yet again in the dark. "She died because of your incompetence. As a father, you were supposed to protect her." Ghost's words were like needles piercing through his heart. "You were trying to blame someone else for her death." Baron continued to swing his warhammer in anger. "It was you who spoiled her. If anyone is to be blamed, it should be you. A failed father." As the Baron heard these words, without even his control or willingness, he lost the hold of the warhammer. Tears flooded out of his eyes as he fell to his knees. "You spoiled her and made what she was." Baron could hear the voice getting closer and closer. However, he was in no mood to fight. The words uttered by Ghost shifted the blame and anger from Lucifer to himself. Imagine how she would have cried for her daddy. When the life was leaving her, she would have prayed for you. Prayed for her father to come and save her. Baron felt a gust of wind as he looked up to see the glowing red eyes of Ghost staring directly in his eyes. "You failed her, you failed your baby girl, you let her suffer, you let her go through that pain and agony, you killed her." The words were doing something inside the Baron. He couldn't take it anymore. The Baron wanted nothing but Ghost to stop. It felt like these words torturing his soul itself. He couldn't help imagining Jane crying for him to save her. "Take this and take your pathetic life. At least you will get a chance to say sorry for failing her." The Baron felt Ghost placing the dagger in his hand. "Jane," the Baron mumbled as he gripped the dagger tighter. "Don't make her wait this time, Pulch." As the darkness faded away from the hall, Several lifeless bodies could be seen lying on the hall. One of the bodies was the Baron with a long deep cut around his neck. Chapter 379 Crime Investigation. When the heavy rain finally slowed down to a drizzle, two figures landed on the front lawn of the Baron's manor in Bradford. As they descended on the ground, they were welcomed by a bunch of guards in both full metal armor and leather armor. Archers were atop the manor looking at the surrounding cautiously while several groups of soldiers patrolled the manor around. There was red tape surrounding the manor with commoners staring at the manor from behind the tape. The soldiers were struggling to keep the commoners from crossing the line. Regardless of the dark clouds hovering in the sky above them, the people didn't seem like they would leave the manor. The soldiers didn't dare to stop the two figures because they all knew who they were, guardians. The two figures who came were none other than Peyton and Zanali. "What's going on here?" Zanali asked Peyton, looking at the tensed faces of the soldiers. Zanali expected the people of Bradford to be in shock, but they looked more terrified than shocked. "You will know soon," Peyton simply said instead of explaining. The two of them walked towards the manor's main door. Some of the soldiers who saw the guardian crest on Peyton and Zanali's clothes heaved a sigh of relief. Along the way, the soldiers who were patrolling the manor halted their steps to bow. Giving them a simple nod, Peyton and Zanali made their way towards the manor. The two soldiers standing near the door quickly opened up the door without a question when they saw the guardian crest on their chests. As the door slowly opened, they saw a couple of holy guards talking to a young man. Peyton had seen the dark-haired young man before at the arena. He dressed in full black like Ghost, but he was far cry from Ghost. Peyton knew who he was. He was one of the Ghost's lackeys, Ricky Cruz. Born and raised in a poor family, joined the military of Bredia when he was 16 years old after his father retired from the post of gate guard. His life turned upside down when he met Ghost. At the moment, Ricky's monthly wage was far greater than any soldier on the continent. Within a year, Ricky brought his family from a small village in Bredia to the residential area of the Sunrise Sect. Ghost was transforming the Sunrise Sect mountain range into his own mini-kingdom. They were creating several zones in the mountain range. The main mountain had constructions related to the sect and academic purposes. According to Peyton's New Dawn team, the second zone was supposed to be a residential area. Another rumor she heard about Ghost as he was searching for elven architects to work with dwarves to transform the mountain range without destroying the forests and wildlife in the mountain range. His love for nature always made Peyton really wonder about his personality. He never seemed like a person who would care for Mother Nature. However, he was an alchemist and the owner of the largest herbal garden in Bredia. Hence, his love for nature somewhat made sense. Taking her glance away from Ricky, Peyton saw several horribly mutilated bodies lay on the ground. The entire hall reeked of blood and arch energy. "Miss Peyton," suddenly Peyton heard a calming voice from behind. She turned back to see Ghost walking towards her with a welcoming smile on his face. "I wish we had met under a different circumstance," she nodded as he turned his gaze towards Zanali. "Miss." Zanali gave him a cold nod, but he didn't seem like he cared. "What happened here, Ghost? Or should I call you King Ghost?" Zanali noticed the smile on Peyton's face. It was peculiar as she thought Peyton hated Ghost to the core. "I prefer you call me Ghost as long as I don't have to call you Guardian Peyton." Too tongue-twisty, Ghost chuckled as Peyton nodded. "What happened here?" The smile on Ghost's face disappeared as he sighed after hearing Peyton's question. "Follow me, it's better if I showed you." Peyton and Zanali followed him behind to the east side of the throne hall. The shadows of pillars and the curtains darkened the floor beneath. The closer they got, they saw a body lying on the ground. Compared to the rest of the bodies, the body before them was intact. "That's Baron Totonk." Zanali was stunned. She looked at the deep cut around his neck before turning her gaze back at Peyton. Peyton, however, didn't look as shocked as her. She just adjusted her square spectacles, taking a closer look at the dagger in the Baron's hand. "The Holy Guards are still doing the investigation, but it seems like the Baron took his life with that dagger after going mad on the poor soldiers." Based on the cut and the Baron's body position, Peyton agreed with Ghost on the fact he took his own life. The Holy Guards took the Baron's warhammer. Some soldiers were beaten to death with the hammer, at least it looks that way. Sigh, Ghost sighed as he continued. The soldiers' family have to conduct a closed casket funeral. I will make sure their families get what they deserve and more. Peyton nodded. I saw 2 piles of ashes with skulls. I don't think the Baron was powerful enough to cast a spell that powerful. I heard the personal guards of the Baron were at core formation level 6. The Baron was weaker than them and not a mage. Follow me. Yet again, Zanali followed Ghost behind. They were walking towards the throne where Zanali saw a holy guard in full white metal armor standing beside. Noticing the guardians approaching, the holy guard walked away from the body. As the holy guard moved away from the body, Zanali saw the complete body or what was left of it. In the place where the head should have been, Zanali saw brain matter, skull pieces, and blood. She felt nauseous just by looking at it. She thought Gaia's killing was brutal, but what happened inside the throne hall was on another level compared to the killings of Gaia. Zanali couldn't believe it was done by a normal being. It seemed like something much worse stormed into the hall and massacred them without a shred of mercy. Their bodies were mutilated. She doubted even Ghost was capable of such violence. Peyton whistled as she took a look at the staff in the mage's hands. If I'm a gambling man, I would say this is Yanab, the Baron's court mage, and he has something to do with that spell. Maybe. Peyton squatted near the body. She studied the body for a few moments before turning her gaze to look at the 2 piles of ashes. Meanwhile, Zanali and Ghost patiently stared at Peyton. It depends on how powerful the spell was, but the distance makes sense. Of course it does, Michael thought. He was not a hitman in this world as he used to be, but that didn't mean he forgot how to erase the evidence and create new ones to throw the authorities off. It took him half an hour to rearrange the bodies and set up a new crime scene. As far as Michael was concerned, unless someone like Sherlock Holmes comes to see the crime scene, no one could find any evidence that ties him to the killings. As for Ricky and Claire, he didn't worry about them. He made Ricky his subordinate to see the loyalty level. The youngster was 95% loyal to him. In addition to being loyal, Ricky promised he won't tell a soul what happened in the throne hall. Of course, Michael didn't believe his words alone. Yet Ricky was too valuable and loyal to just kill him. Hence, Michael placed a spy cam on him and ordered Azazel to monitor him all day every day. If Ricky kept his mouth shut, he would live. Claire's situation was somewhat complicated thanks to his stupid outburst. His instincts told Michael not to harm Claire but only place a spy cam on her too. In truth, Michael didn't think Claire would ever rat him out to the Guardians. Just like Ricky, she would not be harmed as long as she kept her mouth shut. Although he didn't want to kill Claire, if she ratted him out, he would have to kill her. Too much was at stake. He was mad at himself for not being able to control his bloodthirstiness. He felt like he was caged inside his own body and someone else took over his body to kill them all. The moment he finished dealing with the Guardians and the Holy Guards, he wanted to have a long chat with the system to find what was wrong with him. The urge to kill was under control unlike before, but he wanted to fix himself before he was being taken over. Ghost, did you inform the Baron's family? Peyton asked. Yes, I sent the men to let his sons know what happened here. Giving the answers of what really happened here depends on Holy Guards and you guys. I urge you to do a complete investigation. My men and I will help in any way we can. Your Majesty, the nobles are here. Peyton saw Ricky call for Ghost. Excuse me, Miss Peyton, I have kingly duties to take care of now. Of course, we will be in touch, Peyton said. Zanali stared at Ghost's figure slowly disappearing from her sight. Then she asked Peyton, what do you think that happened here, Peyton? You buy his story? I don't. Peyton adjusted her spectacles. But I also don't think he has something to do with the killings. He is a core formation level 10. Although he is very powerful, he couldn't have killed all those core formation warriors and a core strengthening stage mage. I knew Mage Yanab, he couldn't have been killed by Ghost. Peyton was not wrong though. What killed them all was not indeed Ghost. It was something much more powerful, the sprout of the true Dark Lord. Chapter 380. Back in the dark forest, Michael was standing in front of a mirror staring at his reflection. My lord, you're here. Azazel hovered through the walls to see Michael. The demon butler frowned, noticing the scars on Ghost's body. Something happened, my lord? Azazel asked. Ghost was not wearing any face mask to hide his face. Azazel was completely loyal to him. Besides, in the future, Azazel would have to work with both his personas, Ghost and Lucifer. He thought of Azazel as Alfred to his Batman. Baron Totonk and a bunch of soldiers who were just doing their job were killed, Ghost said, throwing the long coat he was holding in his hand to the bed. Who killed them, my lord? Me. Michael slowly walked towards the mirror. He put his hand on the mirror. Boom. Suddenly Michael punched the mirror as the glass mirror shattered into tiny pieces. The broken pieces on the ground reflected Michael's angered face. Have you finished with the surveillance room? Azazel nodded. Yes, my lord, I can now monitor your spycams 24/7. Good, now go. I need some time alone. I will be waiting for your order, my lord. Bowing his head, Azazel left the room. After Azazel left the room, Michael sat on the bed. On his face, there was no sign of delight thinking about how he was going to break through to the core strengthening stage. Rather, he was more worried about his outburst and the third persona. System, what's happening to me? Michael entered the system interface. Staring at the status window, he asked the system. The system's level is too low. The next upgrade will cost the host 200,000 badass points. Does the host wish to upgrade the system to 4.0? Do it. Michael was too focused on what just happened to him. He wasn't in the mood to bitch with the system for its uselessness to this situation. The experience cap for each level in the core strengthening stage will be reduced by 25% after upgrading the system. Initial experience cap 800,000, System 4.0 experience cap 600,000. System upgrade is in progress. I hope you have an answer to my problem system version 3.0 host. Michael cultivation level, core formation stage, level 10 experience points. 400,000/400,000, 1,800,000 points remaining to be consumed, badass points, 500,000 skills and spells, Wind Blast, LVL6 responsive shield, LVL8 environment scanning, LVL6 ignitia, LVL8 lightning dash, LVL6 energy devour, LVL2 death range, LVL3 eyes of darkness, normal. Can sense the cultivation level of others' eyes of darkness, Lucifer. Can sense the cultivation level of others, can see through. Illusions cloud of darkness, Lucifer. Weak-willed enemies will lose their courage completely and surrender. Death range will be 50% more powerful. If activated in darkness, the host's cultivation level will be boosted 4 levels up regardless of the stage barrier. Wordless spellcaster, Lucifer. In full Lucifer form, the host just has to think of the spell to cast it. Techniques: Swords of Destiny, 95% Mastery Ring of Fire, 83% Mastery Serpent Maga, 96% Mastery Occupation. Core Disciple of Sunrise Sect, the Guardian of Sunrise Sect, Lord Lucifer of the Abyssal, the Dark Lord King of Bradford status. Healthy goals: Control the world, rebuild the Order of Death. Utility function: Banker, LVL 5. Ratio: 1,000 gold coins. 40 badass points, runic teleportation, X-ray vision, also integrated with Eyes of Darkness, wealth, 5 million gold. Special trait, 5-star alchemist, 3-star inventor. Subordinates: Gaia, warrior, loyalty level 100%. Raylene, 5-star chef, loyalty level 99%. Arya, assassin, loyalty level 38%. Heinberg, warrior, loyalty level 35%. Maxine, warrior, loyalty level 98%. Tiberius, warrior, loyalty level 45%. Sadie, loyalty level 30%. Ricky, loyalty level 95%. The Silent Reaper crew, pirates, loyalty level 80%. Base of operation: Sunrise Sect, the Abyssal, the Crypt Kingdom of Bradford Familiars. Nightmare, Forest Dragon, Vidora, 3-headed Hydra. While the system was upgrading itself, he noticed the 5% loyalty drop in the Silent Reaper crew. It made sense though, as they were stuck in the crypt instead of pillaging the ships in the sea. Ever since the Guardians destroyed the Silent Reaper, Michael was keeping the pirate crew in the crypt in Undead Island. He provided enough rations for them to last for 3 months. Although Maxine was there to oversee the pirates, the crypt was like a cage to the free-spirited pirates. Michael lost track of time. In a blink of an eye, 6 hours passed by. The system upgrade is completed. Current system level 4, 0. The host has 1,600,000 experience points left to consume. Does the host wish to consume the points? Before we do that, tell me what happened to me earlier? The system's level is too low. What the? Michael couldn't believe what he just heard. He spent 200,000 badass points to upgrade the system, yet he received nothing. On top of being pissed at himself, the system's uselessness kindled the fire of anger inside him. Shit, how much for the next upgrade? 600,000 badass points? Michael wanted to punch the system if it had a physical body. However, he quickly controlled his anger before he might lose control again. Instead of getting consumed by anger, Michael calmed himself down. He tried to think instead of letting the anger overtake his brain. System, consume the points. The breakthrough to the core strengthening stage will take 4 days. Warning. The system will be offline for 4 days. Warning. The host will be in an unconscious state for 4 days. The system will notice the host if the host was in danger. Do it. Michael wasn't worried about his safety as he was in the dark forest. Besides, he let the elders handle the meeting with the nobles in Bradford. His top priority now was to get stronger and find a cure for his new problem of losing control of his mind. Congratulations to the host for reaching the next stage, the core strengthening stage. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is core for strengthening stage level 1. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is core for strengthening stage level 2. Congratulations to the host for leveling up. The current level is core for strengthening stage level 3. Unlike before, Michael received neither gifts nor special items from the system for upgrading it to the next level or reaching the core strengthening stage. For others, Michael was cultivating in a heaven-defying speed. But for him, he was moving at a snail's pace. In a blink of an eye, 4 days had passed. Slowly, Michael felt the control of his body returning to him. His consciousness returned as he slowly opened his eyes. In Ghost Persona, the host is undefeatable to anyone under core strengthening stage level 5. In Complete Lucifer Persona, the host is undefeatable to anyone under core strengthening stage level 7. When he activates the Cloud of Darkness and Eyes of Darkness, his Lucifer form would be completed. In that complete form, if he activated the death range in the darkness, his power would be boosted 4 levels higher. Hence he would be undefeatable to anyone at or under core strengthening stage level 7. I must find an answer to my problem, Michael mumbled to himself. Do I suffer from multiple personalities? It can't be. I created Lucifer to dominate the world, but people had been expecting me for thousands of years. Michael did not even leave the bed as he began to ponder. Only thing that makes me different from the young masters like Noah is my ability to keep myself calm. I cannot lose my reasoning ever again. I need to fix myself, but where do I search for answers to my problem? He missed Gaia now more than ever. I said, no, rather he said that death and chaos are so beautiful. Michael remembered what he said during the massacre. If he could find out about the persona's characteristics, he might be able to find some answer, at least he thought. What if that's the Dark Lord the Guardians were afraid of? That's who I'm gonna be in the future? No one controls my fate except me. Michael took a deep breath. An unwavering resolution emerged in his eyes. His feet touched the ground as he cracked his neck. Who am I kidding? That was me, more powerful. He remembered how powerful he felt when slaughtering the guards. Although he felt pity for them, he had to admit that he was frickin' powerful. Even Yanab, a core strengthening stage mage, was so powerless against him. If I could control myself in that form. Michael snickered. My lord, Michi's train of thoughts was interrupted by Azazel's voice. He heard the demon butler's voice coming from the other side of the walls. Come on in, Azazel. The demon butler floated towards him. What is it? As he asked, Michael took a new set of black long coats and turtlenecks from his space ring. He put them on, adjusting the collars and sleeves before turning his gaze back at Azazel. While you were cultivating here, I received a request to meet you from Lady Maxine from the crypt. Apparently, some pirates have been acting strange. Is that so? I think I have to return to the southern continent. Michael willed the system to equip Lucifer armor as well as change his face using the face mask. "My lord, what should I do while you're gone?" Azazel asked with utmost respect. "Clean up the throne hall. It's time I gather my minions and start the world domination." The tournament arc has finally come to an end with this chapter. From the onwards, we will venture into the new arc. Yes, I heard your concerns about the spirit child and Michael losing his mind. If you're worried about the novel going in a cliché way, it won't. Michael was not perfect, he was far from being perfect. He would have his ups and downs. The next arc will focus on Gaia and Michael's character building as well as some interesting twists. Chapter 381. Inside the Fire Realm, one could see a hot gooey lava river moving in zigzags. If one wasn't careful and greedy, they would mistake the lava river for a river of gold. Through the bubbling lava river, a boat was slowly moving. A girl who had a three-headed pet on her lap sat on the opposite side of the young man who was rowing the boat. Obviously, it was Gaia, Vidora, and Noah on the boat, as no one else would be crazy enough to choose this route instead of a safer and longer road. "Are you absolutely sure there are no fishes in the river?" Dag asked, giving Gaia a puppy look. She instead just rolled her eyes. "You just ate the last of my cookies." Rather than minding Gaia and the Hydra's quarrel which was going on for days, Noah focused on the surroundings. There was nothing else except for desolate land as far as he could see. Few boulders here and there, and that's it. The sky was as usual red while the air was filled with ash particles. The red and gray combination gave off an eerie feeling to the fire realm. "Fuck, how long it has been since we came here?" Ayag asked. 94 days to be exact. A glimmer of sadness emerged in Gaia's eyes. She looked at the distant horizon thinking about Ghost and Nightmare. She missed the two of them like crazy. Noah could see the sadness in her eyes. In fact, he felt happy for Ghost to find a girl who loves him like Gaia. Although she killed innocents and committed many crimes, Noah didn't want the two of them to be separated because of him. He believed in second chances. This was Gaia's second chance. They had been in the river for 5 days. Unlike Gaia believed, there were indeed fishes in the river along with dangerous beasts. If it wasn't for the solution Noah applied on the boat, they would have been inside some beast's belly. The solution was provided to him by the Alpha Guardian of Hunter Guardians herself. After rowing for another 5 continuous days, Noah's hands started to ache. Fortunately, Noah turned back to see a couple of burned trees appear in his sight. "Hey," Noah called out to Gaia to bring her back to reality. "That's the entrance." Gaia followed his gaze to see 2 lone trees that had no leaves whatsoever. Even the lightning-struck trees wouldn't look as black and lifeless as those 2 trees. "We can beach the boat there," Gaia pointed at the ash shore. Noah nodded before rowing the boat towards the shore. After beaching the copper boat, Gaia placed Vidora inside her satchel safely. They didn't rush but cautiously walked towards the lone trees. "That's the spot," Noah said. Vidora craned their necks out to look at the spot Noah pointed at. However, they could only see 2 ordinary trees, and they didn't find anything unusual. "What the hell are you talking about?" "There's nothing but burned trees there," Ike said. "Weird," Kane mumbled. He was suspicious of the 2 lone trees. They seemed out of place. "Try to sense the energy fluctuations, brat. There's a natural formation between the trees." Gaia flicked the head of Ayag. What the heck is a natural formation?" "It's kind of an illusion array but very different from those made by humans. A natural formation is formed by nature after gathering condensed arch energy for thousands of years. It's a miraculous process and many know very little about it. Anyone can easily be trapped by it if they don't pay enough attention," Noah explained. His explanation made Ayag frown deeper. "If it's a fucking illusion array, why are you 2 crazy heads heading towards it instead of running away from it?" "I said it's a kind of illusion array. Natural formations also act as a portal to travel around the fire realm." "Oh, then we are gonna finally get the fuck out of this place. Let's go." Ayag changed her opinion lightning quick. She now looked excited to go between the 2 trees unlike a few seconds ago. Noah too couldn't help but sigh in relief, as if he had just seen a light carrying hope. There were many invisible natural defense mechanisms and formations existing within the depths of Fire Realm, and they came to this lava river because of a natural formation. If they could find another natural formation, they would have a chance at the river. After all, the solution couldn't fend off the beast forever. When or if they came out of the river, they were good as dead. Let's go! Swoosh! Both Gaia and Noah immediately dashed towards the space between the two trees. The aura of the natural defense mechanism in this valley was pretty obvious. Even Iag could sense it as they approached. Its aura was much more powerful compared to the formations they happened to stumble upon. When the three of them went through the space between the trees, they disappeared from the desolate valley. The scene in front of them changed dramatically once again. It was a plain gray world in front of them. The eerie and chilly energies within were so much stronger compared to the desolate valley they just came from. A stinking smell filled up the air within the place, extremely unpleasant and pungent. Besides this, black whirlwinds appeared all over the place, and the air blowing across the place was cutting them to the marrow. It also carried a strong corrosive characteristic. Congratulations, we escaped from the frying pan into the fire, Iag couldn't help but curse. Be careful. There is poisonous vapor all over the place. A deadly toxic gas merged with the freezing vapor, causing this poisonous vapor to be formed. It's a deadly thing that can kill any cultivator. Noah reminded. Is that so? Gaia snickered as she walked towards one of the black whirlwinds. Bitch, stop, are you trying to kill us? Iag screamed, trying to stop Gaia from walking towards the poison whirlwinds. Gay reached out to touch the whirlwind. Noah was stunned to see nothing really happen to her. Although Nagas were resistant to most poisons, they were not immune to the poison whirlwinds of Fire Realm. However, nothing happened to Gaia when she touched the poison whirlwind. It should have entered through the finger to her brain and killed her in a few seconds. Since that never happened, there was only one explanation for this. That was Ghost made her immune to the poisons using some legendary potions. Noah heard about potions that could be brewed by 5-star alchemists to make someone completely resistant to the poisons known to man. Huh. Iag opened her eyes to see nothing had happened to her like she was expecting. As Gaia was looking smug and feeling proud of Ghost for making them both poison-resistant, Noah walked towards them with a calm smile. When he came closer to the black whirlwind, Noah unleashed a blue barrier of flame, covering his entire body. The layer of blue flame covered his body as though it was a blanket. It was a barrier formed by one of the two primordial flames, Heaven's Flame, which repelled all poison known to mankind. Gaia was stunned by the blue flame. She had never seen such a majestic flame ever before in her life. She heard Ghost talk about primordial flames, and she could guess that the blue flame on Noah's body was definitely one of the two primordial flames. However, she did not let what was in her mind show on her face. Although she could tell Noah wouldn't easily tell her where he got the flame, if she could find out, it would get Ghost one step closer to reaching 6-star alchemist status. This place should be an isolated space, and it doesn't look big. We just need to find the path to the 5-headed serpent's lair, Noah said. He could feel that they were getting closer to the 5-headed serpent. This place was fully filled with toxic vapor and could be considered a natural land of death. It would be really bad luck if anyone ordinary accidentally came to this space. He was covered by a fire barrier, while Gaia just walked next to him like it was nothing. The duo began slowly walking forward. Since the toxicity in the air was too strong, there were no beasts or bandits anywhere nearby. The entire space was extremely quiet, and nothing could be heard except for the tornado's swishing sounds. It gave the space an eerie feeling, as if they had actually come to the real hell. Suddenly, a cracking sound could be heard from underneath Gaia's foot. It sounded really loud when in this quiet environment. Fuck? What was that? Iag cursed as she was spooked by the sound. They lowered their heads, looking at the ground. Then, they saw an entire skeleton lying where Gaia had just stepped. Her foot caused a hole to appear on the skeleton's chest. This is a skeleton of a soul-strengthening stage warrior. He must have been dead for a long time. Look, all the bone has become porous. You've shattered it. Noah had eagle eyes. Although the skeleton was badly corroded by the poisonous air and had turned completely black, he still found that this was a core-strengthening stage warrior skeleton. This place sucks. A core-strengthening stage warrior could still survive for quite some time in this space without any poison resistance using arch energy to shield his or her body. The only explanation for his death would be that he depleted all his arch energy in order to resist the poisonous air. He was killed by the poisonous air once he couldn't repel the deadly poison any longer. Why did he come here anyway? Gaia wondered why the cultivator came to the fire realm. Noah and she were here to hunt down the five-headed serpent so Noah could save Zanala's stepfather while she was here to absorb the blood and start her metamorphosis. If it wasn't for the five-headed serpent, Gaia would have never even thought of coming here. What next? Sarba asked after looking around the place. Move forward until we find the five-headed serpent's trail, Noah smiled. With a determined look in his eyes, he said, just keep moving forward until we find the five-headed serpent's trail. The following journey was completely eventless. They kept bumping into new skeletons along their way, and all these skeletons were once core strengthening stage warriors. Gaia really wondered why this many core strengthening stage warriors ventured into the fire realm. She even stumbled upon a skeleton of a soul refining stage warrior. This meant they were looking for something here. The duo had walked for nearly an hour, and they kept bumping into more and more skeletons. The place seemed really desolate. After spending almost 2 hours of walking, they suddenly saw a light blinking in the distance. Look, there is light blinking in front. Ayag informed them. She almost shouted, let's go check it out. Noah saw the light as well. Although the rainbow color light seemed faded, it couldn't escape their eyes. The duo immediately dashed forward, and soon they arrived at the source of the light. A human Ayag's eyes lit up as she saw a man with disheveled hair was sitting with both legs crossed, not moving at all, which made him look like a stone statue. But the weak aura emitting from his body showed that this old man was still alive. Chapter 382. Both Gaia and Noah slowly approached the old man. As if he had heard something, the old man finally raised his head up, slowly. With cloudy eyes, he looked at them. Vidora quickly went inside the satchel to hide. An old man, a really old man who was long past his prime. The robe covering his body was really loose, he had wrinkled skin on his face and an extremely thin body. He looked just like a skeleton who had nothing but skin. Pretty horrifying as he looked like a mummy. The old man's aura was really weak as if he was going to die at any time. And yet he was still alive. Sigh. Someone is here again. Someone is going to die soon. Sign. The old man let out 2 sighs. His voice was shrill, making it unpleasant to listen to. It looked like he had gotten used to the deaths happening here. A soul-refining stage warrior, Noah looked closer at the old man. He immediately found out the cultivation level of the old man. But, because the vital signs of the old man were really weak, and there was no celestial energy that could be sensed in his body, as it had been completely depleted, he couldn't determine which level this old man was. Such young sprouts. Too bad you've come to this land of death. The old man let out another sigh, then he just flicked his wrist as a golden barrier appeared around them. It's been 20 years, all who came here before me have gone. Now, I'm soon going to leave as well. For 20 years, I had no one to talk to. At least heavens granted me with my last wish. Pity the last person you're gonna meet is this old man. The old man carried a smile on his face. The despair and anger he had when he first arrived at this place was long gone. He had seen through life and death. The old man seemed calm, no signs of grievance could be found on his face. However, from his pair of cloudy eyes, one could still tell that he is grieving. If this old man leaves this place, his cultivation will take a long dip before rising back again, Noah thought to himself. After breaking through to the soul refining stage, a cultivator required a constant supply of celestial energy to achieve higher levels in cultivation. If the cultivator didn't get enough celestial energy, his cultivation will gradually decline. Considering this old man was stuck here without celestial energy, when or if he escaped the fire real, his cultivation would drop down to lower stages before returning to his previous state. Shit, you stayed here for 20 years. I hope what you were searching for in Fire Realm is worth it. Gaia rolled her eyes. Being able to stay alive in this harsh environment, you must have been at the peak of soul-refining stage, old man. If I am right, you must have come looking for something that could help you deal with your bottleneck and reach fusion stage. After 20 years in this environment, the bottleneck has gone but you got stuck here, Noah said with an indifferent tone. Those skeletons belonged to the people who came to see what happened to you. Hearing this, the old man's cloudy eyes suddenly light up. He stared at Noah with a look of disbelief. He couldn't help but start examining the young man in front of him. Being able to discover he had a bottleneck with a single look, and also judging his real cultivation level just from knowing how long he had been here was not someone anyone could do. That's why this old man couldn't help being shocked. Besides, he found out that the men who died here came searching for him. What a keen eye, but too bad. The old man kept shaking his head, his eyes filled with deep regret. He could easily tell that Noah was extraordinary and had innate potential. A genius like this was supposed to become a well-known guy in the world. But now, he had to die in this shit place. What a pity. Gaia was looking around the place to find a way to deal with the golden barrier while the old man was talking to Noah. 20 years ago, I traveled alone to Fire Realm searching for something that could help me reach fusion stage. My damn luck and fate, I accidentally stepped into this place and activated the barrier set up by someone, and it has been 20 years since then. The old man said in a self-mocking manner. He didn't look at Noah, as if he was just talking to himself. But at the same time, it seemed he rather enjoyed the feeling of talking. It seemed like he hadn't talked to anyone for quite a long time. If he could go back in time, he would stop himself from venturing into the Fire Realm. By estimations, my death will arrive tomorrow. But I don't want to be like all the other people who died here, having my body corroded by the poison. That's too tragic. Young man, once I die tomorrow, burn my body. This was the last request from an old man who had gone past his prime. The old man looked at Noah, focusing on the flames dancing around his body. Gaia didn't give a shit about the old man's tragedy. She was busy searching for a way out of here. Noah inwardly sighed. The man didn't ask Noah to help him accomplish any weird, unfulfilled desire at the last moment of his life, and neither did he have any special orders for Noah. He only requested that Noah burn his body and allow him to have a proper death. Noah, however, just calmly smiled at the old man. Old man, your estimation is really accurate. If I didn't come, you'd be dead by tomorrow. But the Lady Luck smiled on you. I'm here. Noah walked toward the old man. Then he waved his hand and unleashed a flame. The dancing flame shot out from Noah's body took the shape of an angel, a humanoid figure with feathery wings. It transformed into a flame barrier and covered the old man within. In an instant, all the surrounding poisonous vapor was pushed away, as if it had just met its natural enemy. Noah had decided to save this old man, not for any specific reason, but because this old man had been persistently staying alive in this place for 20 years. Noah really respected his endurance. Besides, Noah never ignored anyone in need of help. What a majestic flame, it actually carries a divine aura. Even the poisonous vapor from the Fire Realm doesn't dare try to corrode it. The old man's eyes opened as wide as they could. After a short shocking moment, the old man returned to his calm state. He looked at the fire barrier covering his body, and with a smile on his face, he said, "Young man, put away this flame barrier, it will only consume your energy and focus. You can't hold it for a long time. The poisonous vapor has already invaded my body, I'm dying. You can only lessen the pain but can't stop the inevitable. If you wanted to die, you could have ended your life a long time ago. You hope to leave this place. Don't lose hope now. Let me help you get rid of all the poisonous miasma in your body." After saying that, Noah placed his palm on the old man's chest. The moment Noah placed his hand on the old man's body swayed a little. He stared at Noah's palm with no idea what Noah was going to do next. He knew very well about his current condition, and it was impossible to get rid of the poison that had invaded his body. The old man who had been tense for the last 20 years had finally loosened up completely at this moment. He saw the confidence in Noah's eyes, and it made him feel calm as well as hopeful yet again. Noah unleashed the poison-absorbing skill he learned from Andreas, his mentor. Heaven's flames seeped through the old man's body. Sending a primordial flame into someone else's body was extremely dangerous. One misstep and the flame would burn the body into ashes. Yet this old man had no fear because, with his current condition, there was nothing that could scare him. After all, he was soon going to die. Besides, If Noah really was up to something bad, he could just kill the old man with a palm strike. There was no need to go through so much hassle. Heaven's flame circulated an entire round within the old man's body. After that, it returned to Noah's body. It only took Noah a few minutes before he had completed the healing process. Finally, he removed his palm from the old man's chest. Poof! The old man violently trembled, and in an instant he threw up a mouthful of black blood and began violently coughing. The old man coughed for some time before he returned to normal. Then, he immediately raised his head to look at Noah, who was calmly smiling at him. The old man checked his Buddhist condition, and he instantly found out that all the poison that had been corroding his body for the last 20 years had disappeared. His internal organs that had completely lost their vital signs were actually pumping with an extremely active force now. More importantly, since all the poison was gone, the old man felt extremely relaxed and comfortable, as if someone had just lifted a gigantic mountain that had been weighing down on him for the last 2 decades. I'm healed, the old man closed his eyes. He really enjoyed this moment. It was a feeling he hadn't felt for so many years. 20 years, day by day, year by year, he had been suffering from constant pain. For ordinary people, suffering such severe pain for 20 years would definitely make that person crazy. The old man did go crazy before, but in the end, he had seen through life and death. Now, Noah had restored his hope of living. The old man was immersed in the pleasant moment, and Noah didn't disturb him. He had absorbed all the poison in the old man's body into his own body. After some time, the old man finally opened up his eyes. He looked at Noah and said, "Young man, you really absorbed all the poison in my body into yours. That's really dangerous. Yet, the poison hasn't affected you. How is it possible? Were you really a guardian?" Noah replied with a smile. The old man was stunned, but when he thought about it, everything made sense. Who in the world other than a guardian would venture into a place like this and help a stranger? Guardian? Young man, you've saved my life today. For the first time in many years, the old man bent his back to bow towards Noah. What were you searching for here? Before the old man could start rumbling about gratitude and a way to pay him back, Noah asked him. The 5-headed serpent. The moment the old man spoke these words, Gaia immediately turned back. She dashed forward. Did you find it? Where is the lair? Tell me, sigh, the old man sighed. He could tell by seeing the look on her face that they came looking for the 5-headed serpent too, just like him 20 years ago. A Naga killed the serpent and absorbed everything except this. As Gaia's heart skipped a beat, the old man flicked his wrist. A charcoal gray stone-like thing appeared in his hand. Noah and Gaia looked closer at the thing to sense pulses coming from within. The heart, Noah mumbled. Suddenly Gaia grabbed the old man by his neck and lifted him up. Who killed the serpent? Regardless of him being grabbed by his neck by the girl, the old man remained calm. Just as Noah was about to stop Gaia, the old man flicked his wrist again as a gold-plated snake-shaped pendant appeared in his hand. From top to bottom, Gaia felt an electric bolt running through her body. She immediately let the old man go before taking the pendant from his hand. The Naga woman who killed the serpent left this with the heart. Gaia couldn't believe the words coming from the old man's mouth. She was shivering holding the pendant. It seemed like a family heirloom. If I ever get out, I wanted to return this to her kin. What? Something's happening. Unexpectedly, Noah sensed energy fluctuations around him. It felt like the space around them was getting distorted. It was the same feeling he had when he was teleported into the Alpha Guardian's warship, but much stronger. Boom. In a blink of an eye, a bright light flashed across Noah's eyes, producing a loud booming sound. He couldn't help closing his eyes. When he opened his eyes, Gaia was gone. On a mountain cliff filled with dancing green lush grass fields, Gaia appeared out of nowhere. The setting sun painted the ocean with its golden rays. Gaia looked around, having no idea what just happened. There were nothing but grass fields and a calm ocean as far as she could see. While she was looking around, she felt a breeze brushing past her from behind. She turned back to see an ethereal figure gradually forming before a couple of meters ahead of her in the air. Mother, note, the old man will play an important role in the story. Hence the long chapter about the old man and Noah. I didn't want the chapter to be split into 2. It has crossed the 2K word limit. I hope you don't feel it draggy. Chapter 383. Gaia's eyes watered as the ethereal figure took the shape of a woman who looked extremely similar to Gaia but more dominant and majestic. Even if the figure was ethereal, her raven black hair seemed to be fluttered in the air as though they were the wings of an angel. The woman was tall. Her perfect structure was covered by metallic black plate armor from her neck to toe. She radiated a fearsome warrior vibe all around her. Her perfect jaw structure would make anyone think that the god themselves sculpted her personally. Regardless of her ethereal form, her green eyes glimmered, reflecting the golden sun rays of the setting sun. Craning their necks out of the satchel, Vidora saw the woman floating a couple of meters away from them. Even Iag was speechless and felt as if she wanted to bow towards the woman. They had never seen such a woman with elegance as the woman before them. In addition to her dominant vibe, she was someone who could be said to be a country-toppling beauty. Even Layla paled in comparison to the woman in terms of beauty and grace. Baby girl. The two words that came out of the woman's mouth sounded like music. Gaia lost all control of her body as she collapsed to the ground on her knees. Tears poured out of her eyes. Mother. Gaia's voice broke in overwhelming pain in her heart. The images of her mother in her mind flashed across her eyes. She couldn't utter any words through the lump in her throat. When her mother died, Gaia was just 3 years old. Still, she had clear memories of her mother playing with her, teaching her to read, teaching her to fight, and showing her how to rule over people. It had been 25 years since she last saw her mother. Gaia wanted to dash towards, hug her mother and never let her go. Baby girl, what did I tell you about crying? Gaia looked up to see the smiling face of her mother. She couldn't help bursting into tears. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't stop the tears from gushing out of her eyes. The pain in her heart exploded into tears. You are Gaia's mother? Iag asked while Gaia was sobbing her heart out. Despite the question, Gaia's woman didn't even take a look at Iag. She is just a soul fragment left behind. She can't see us or hear us. It's a recording, Cain explained to Iag. Baby girl, if you are here, that means that idiot from the Fisher family was still alive. Listen to my Gaia, I don't think how much of this message will remain at the time you're hearing. Gaia saw the gentle smile on her mother's face disappear. Since you are here, that means the prophecy has started already. Listen to me carefully, baby girl. Gaia looked at her mother without batting an eye. You must find the Dark Lord, Gaia. You must find him. Gaia was stunned by her mother's words. The Skyhall spies are everywhere, Gaia. You must find him before they do. They are not what everyone thinks they are. Mother, are you alive? Gaia asked. Despite what she heard from Cain, she still hoped her mother would be alive. As though she had heard Gaia's question, Gaia's mother sighed. Find the dark elf in the tree, baby girl. He will have answers to your questions and help you find the Dark Lord. The ethereal form of her mother started to flicker as her voice became distorted for a few seconds. You can find him, Hilan Realm. Sky. Her voice became more and more distorted as her figure kept flickering. Dark Lord, only he can save this world. Find him. Whenever Gaia's mother uttered the words Dark Lord, Cain noticed the idolizing look in her eyes. It seemed as though she was worshipping the Dark Lord. He also noticed the vague resemblance of Ghost's choice of black in Gaia's mother's armor. Silly. Stay away, guardians. Gaia couldn't make sense out of her words. However, she felt a bolt of electricity running through her spine hearing her mother talk about Salisi. Gaia was stunned to see her mother actually know about Salisi because her father married Salisi after her mother died. She shouldn't know about Salisi, yet she seemed to know about Zanala's mother. Mother, don't leave. Again, seeing the ethereal form of her mother flickering and losing its glow, Gaia quickly picked herself up to run towards her. I love you, my baby girl. Just as the words escaped Gaia's mother's mouth, her ethereal figure disappeared into thin air. Gaia's finger touched the glow before it completely faded away, yet she couldn't stop anything. Gaia remained at the place where her mother was just a few seconds ago. She picked the pendant from the ground and held it so tight in her hands. After a few moments, the tears rolling out of her eyes finally stopped. Gaia whipped off the tears off her face. She stared at the sun setting down into the distant horizon. To others it was sunset, for her, it felt like a new sunrise. The pain and grief transformed into joy because she slowly began to realize that her mother might still be alive. As far as she could remember, her mother died 25 years ago, but clearly, her mother was in the fire realm 20 years ago. If she was dead, she wouldn't have met the old man from the Fisher family. There was no explanation except the possibility that her mother might still be alive and she faked her own death for some reason. Otherwise, she wouldn't have known about Celici. When she thought about everything her mother said, she ended up with more questions than answers. One of the questions was how the hell did her mother know about Ghost, the Dark Lord? "Let's go," Egg flapped their wings as they ascended to the air from the satchel. With a few more flaps of their tiny wings, they successfully landed on Gaia's shoulders. "I thought our trip to the fire realm was a complete failure, but am glad that I'm in the wrong." Sarba gently rubbed his head on Gaia's face. Even Iag moved her head towards Gaia's face before wiping the tears off her face. The three heads of Vidora hugged Gaia and spent a few moments in silence. Their love gave warmth and much-needed fearlessness to Gaia. "Where are we?" Iag asked while still resting her head on Gaia's cheek. "All I know is we are definitely out of the fire realm," Kane sighed. He felt safe after a long time. He couldn't wait to go back home. "Great. We can finally go home." A gentle smile appeared on her face along with an unwavering remote in her eyes. "I am coming back home, human. This time, we are going to find my mother together." While Gaia was stuck on the border of the Azer continent, Michael was enjoying the peace and calm of the night sitting on Baron Totonk's throne. He initially planned to teleport back to the crypt to deal with the pirates, but Azazel informed him that the king of Bredia had sent an envoy to deliver him some documents as well as the promised funds. Michael had to return to Bradford and deal with the funds. Fortunately, Elder Sandra, who was responsible for managing the sect's financial side, agreed to manage the financial side of the kingdom too. Hence, he felt relieved because she was really good at finance. If Elder Sandra was born on Earth, she would have made millions or even billions managing funds through her firm. The throne hall reminded him of his biggest mistake to the date since he came to this world. He had lost control of himself. Although it could be viewed as a weakness or a potential threat to himself in the future, he saw an opportunity. That mad persona of him was indeed crazy. However, he also felt extremely powerful in that state. If he could somehow control himself in that state, he would be one step closer to ruling this world. As he was thinking about a way to control himself in that state, a golden ball of light appeared out of nowhere in the throne hall. He was stunned as the golden ball of light dashed at him. He almost dashed out of the throne when the golden ball of light stopped before him a couple of meters away from him. Then, the golden ball of light slowly opened to reveal a silver-plated envelope. The envelope was glimmering in the chandelier light. It slowly floated towards Michael. Looking at the envelope, Michael frowned. Carefully, after ordering the system to scan down the letter, Michael reached out to grab the letter floating in front of him. The letter had the name Ghost written in gold with beautiful calligraphy. When he touched the envelope, it opened automatically, revealing the letter inside. What in the actual fuck is this? That was the first question that appeared in Ghost's mind after reading the letter. Hi, my wonderful readers. I have read all your concern about Michael losing his calmness and change in personality. I can reassure you that this is just a bump in his journey. The story has just started and the real action will begin from the next arc. P.S. The reason for me pasting the author's thoughts in the chapter itself was to get the readers of pirated sites to change their minds and come to WN. Chapter 384. The crypt was as usual dark and gloomy. Gibson didn't even know what time it was as they had no way of looking outside after locking down the crypt door. Gibson took a long deep breath looking at the crew sleeping on the floor completely blackout drunk. Booze was the only thing that kept them from going crazy. Gibson turned his gaze to the crypt's dark corner to see Maxine using Shorty as a dumbbell to train her biceps. She held Shorty by his belt and lifted him up and down. The little guy seemed to be in an awkward position as he avoided looking at Gibson. Noticing Gibson walking towards him, Maxine let go of Shorty. Shorty ran away as fast he could from Gibson. "Lady Maxine, did you talk to Lord Lucifer?" Gibson asked in a worried tone. It had been almost 3 months since they were teleported into the crypt after the Guardians destroyed the Silent Reaper. Never in his life, Gibson thought the Silent Reaper would be reaped by someone else inside the void line. "Lord Lucifer will come here in the morning," Maxine said with a grin on her face. She was excited to see Lord Lucifer after so long. She couldn't wait to help him achieve his goals. She was completely devoted to the cause. If Lord Lucifer asked her of her life, she would give it to him in a blink of an eye. "Shit, tomorrow. Lady Maxine, I would have kept them from getting this drunk." He looked at the pirates who were snoring and rolling on the floor. "You really think we can stop them from getting drunk? That's the only thing keeping them from killing each other," Maxine chuckled. "You are right." Gibson scratched the back of his head as he followed Maxine to the newly placed throne on the north end of the crypt. Like all the thrones of Lucifer, the throne on the crypt also looked similar to the one in the dark forest. "Lady Maxine, have you heard anything from Lady Sadie and Tiberius?" Gibson asked. Maxine grabbed the white towel hanging from her waist before cleaning the dust off the throne. Then, she used the same towel to wipe off the sweat droplets on her face. Gibson was quite used to her reverence towards Lucifer. At first, it was creepy, but now it didn't freak him out as much as it used to. "Sadie is still with those girls and helping them settle down. I told the two of them to get here before Lord Lucifer comes. Lord Lucifer ordered all of us to gather here." Gibson took a deep breath. He could tell their vacation would come to an end soon. Also, he had a feeling that the Real work begins tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, back in Bradford, Michael was holding the acceptance letter to Mazeroth, Academy of the Arcane. He was cracking his knuckle while reading the contents of the letter. "What is this place? Why have I never heard the name before?" He talked to himself. Although he had never heard the name before, by looking at the quality and the gold plating of the letter, he had a feeling that this place was not only powerful but also wealthy. "Your Majesty," as he was deep in thought, Ricky entered the throne hall. "What is it, Ricky?" Michael asked with a gentle smile to calm Ricky. Ever since Ricky witnessed what happened to the Baron and his soldiers, he was shivering. Michael himself regretted killing Baron and his men. Jane was a spoiled brat, but that didn't mean the Baron deserved to die. He was a father in pain of losing his daughter. Of course, since the Baron dared to attack him for no good reason, Michael would have beaten the crap out of his soldiers and Baron himself, but he would have never killed the Baron. Since there was no use in meddling in the past, Michael never spent his time regretting his actions. Instead, he was thinking about how to solve the third-person problem. He himself hated that persona as it was everything he hated. Killing had never been his first plan. Rather, he preferred making allies and getting stronger in the shadows. Because of the Guardians and their prophecy, they pushed him on the path to be the Dark Lord. Even the Lucifer persona was created by him to get rid of his enemies in the shadows and let someone else take the fall. He had never expected that what he had created was something the prophecy foretold 3,000 years ago. "Someone called Lord Information is here." Ricky scratched his head saying the name. "Let him in." Ricky was surprised to see the sudden smile that appeared on Ghost's face. It seemed like he was relieved to hear the name. "That elf has come in a great time," he thought to himself. "Your Majesty, Sect Leader Claire also is here to see you. Send them both in." Michael was surprised to see Claire in here. He thought she would at least stay away from him for a month or two. After Ricky left the hall, Michael leaned back on his throne, experiencing the feeling of being the ruler. He had never been drunk in his life, but the feeling he was experiencing kind of felt like a drug. A few minutes later, Lord Information, wearing rather plain-looking brown robes, entered the throne hall. He took off the cloak covering his face to reveal the trademark pointy ears. Lord Information held the door open for Claire to enter. Giving a short nod at Lord Information, Claire made her way towards the black cushioned seats Michael placed on the hall. Considering Michael was dealing with Guardians and the Holy Guards, he didn't get enough time to actually decorate the throne hall. If Gaia was here, decorating would have been her task. Since it was not the case, he just placed a few black cushion sofas as seats for nobles and people who came to see him and put a plain black cloth as banners. Seeing Michael sitting on the throne, Lord Information gave a nod of approval. "Please take a seat, Lord Information." "Sect Leader Claire, you two take a seat." "You two have met?" Michael asked. "Yes, we have met." It was an honor to meet such a rising star. Lord Information praised Claire as she waved it off wordlessly, telling him not to flatter her too much in front of Ghost. The main reason for the sunrise sect's rising was none other than Ghost, not her or the elders. However, it was not entirely true. Although Michael brought the much-needed gold and allies to the sect, it was Claire who is leading the sect in the path of success. After all, Michael barely intervened with the sect's business. Don't sell yourself too short, sect leader Claire. Your impeccable leadership didn't go unnoticed among the big names in Elon, is that so? Claire let out a gentle smile. Lord Information then turned his gaze towards Michael. Take a look at this and name your price for telling me all I want to know. Michael sent the letter in his hand, floating towards Lord Information. Claire may have not noticed the change in Lord Information's face, but Michael noticed the surprised look in his eyes. It seemed like Lord Information had guessed what the letter was about even without taking a look at it. Hiding the surprise from his face, Lord Information grabbed the letter. Just by looking at the golden lining and paper quality itself indicated to Claire that this letter came from a prestigious organization. Lord Information patiently read the contents inside the letter. Before we talk about Mazeroth, King Ghost, have you heard about Skyhall? The mere mention of the name Skyhall sent a chill running through Claire's spine. Skyhall was the most powerful existence in the entire world. Even Guardians or any of the great clans couldn't be compared to Skyhall in terms of power. Little bit. I heard Guardian Noah's big sister is the Holy Maiden of Skyhall? Yes, Lord Information nodded. This world is basically governed and ruled by the great clans. They are the most dominant existence in the world. The Skyhall can destroy not one but all the great clans in a few days if they wanted. That's how powerful they are. To be honest, Michael was stunned. He was thinking the great clans were the most powerful existences in the world and Skyhall was just another existence like Guardians but never considered as a great clan. However, it seemed like he was wrong. Why haven't I seen any of the Skyhall members or their bases? Michael asked as Lord Information just smiled, shaking his head. It's because Skyhall has no bases in any of the continents. Rather, they have their own realms. This Aquilon realm is one of theirs. Michael couldn't help raising his brows. If they could create realms of their own, there was no doubt in his mind that they are the final boss of this world, not the great clans. Mazeroth is a subsidiary of Skyhall, which makes Mazeroth is the most powerful academy in the world, not Vogarth in the western continent. Lord Information paused for a moment before continuing. This letter is the only way to get into Mazeroth. They only choose the best of the best and they have chosen you. As far as I know, no one has ever rejected this as this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Are you going to be an exception, King Ghost? Michael was thinking about rejecting their offer as he had no time or need to go to school. He wasn't a school kid after all. However, after hearing about the Skyhall, Michael changed his mind. The best way to defeat the Guardians and the great clans was to ally himself with someone more powerful. Until now, he never found such an existence that could go on head-to-head with the great clans. Lord Information, Sect Leader Claire, I'm going back to school. Chapter 385, Lord Information. Since it's another realm, what about the time differences? Michael asked Lord Information. Claire seemed worried, realizing Ghost is going to leave them probably for a long time. Your studies will last for 18 months in the Aquilon realm. The time flows 3 times faster there. So 18 months there would be 6 months here. Wow, you really live up to your name, Lord Information, Michael chuckled. I assume you know someone who went to Mazeroth? He asked. Since Michael needed to know everything he could about Mazeroth and Skyhall, he asked every question that came to his mind. Lord Information might be the handful of few who knew this much information about Mazeroth and Skyhall. Claire seemed clueless about Mazeroth. One couldn't blame Claire as only a handful of people knew about the existence of Mazeroth. As a matter of fact, I know many. I will tell you 2 names whom you already know. Pill King Gabriel and the wielder of Angel Vina, Lady Layla Alden. Both of them studied in Mazeroth. So you can't stay there after studies? Michael asked. As far as I know, you can. Some of them choose to stay in Aquilon while some return here. Why stay there and be just another guy or girl when you can be a king or queen here? Michael could understand. In the Aquilon realm, both Layla and Gabriel would have been another prodigy, but in Elon, they were godlike figures. Every king and noble respects them and treats them with the utmost respect. Unlike Layla, who chose to live on a secluded island filled with poor fishermen, Gabriel was living his life to the fullest. Now before we get into the payment and stuff, I'm here to call in the favor you owe my client. Of course you are. What do you need? Michael didn't mind Claire being here because he was planning to tell her that it was Alex who put the bounty on his head. Enemy of him was an enemy of the sect. Claire had to know the lengths their enemies would go to end their existence. As a leader, she needed to be more tough and ruthless. Lord Information smiled, seeing that Michael did not go back on his word. He would hate to lose a customer such as him. With a smile on his face, Lord Information continued, "In an hour, King Bredia's men would arrive here to escort you to their treasury as King Bredia promised. My client has something in that treasury that need to be retrieved, that's it." Michael was surprised. At the same time, he had a feeling that whatever the item is, it must be really important. He was curious to see what it was. "This is what you have to get from the treasury." Lord Information flicked his wrist as a rolled parchment appeared in his hand. He then sent the parchment flying towards Michael. After getting the parchment, Michael opened up the parchment to see a rather plain-looking black ball inside a glass cube drawn on the parchment. "You are going to tell me what it is?" "Sorry, King Ghost, it's a need to know." "Okay then. Where do I deliver the item to?" Lord Information flicked his wrist yet again as a golden ring appeared in his hand. "Put the item inside this space ring and it will be delivered to the client directly." As the ring flew closer to him, Michael saw golden runes glimmer on the surface of the ring. The ring resembled the ring in Lord of the Rings. A smile formed on his face thinking about the life he had on Earth. He thought that life was pressure and he would have a breeze in this world. But even with the system, his life here was several times harder than his previous one. After Lord Information left the manor taking his 50,000 gold coins for the information he provided, Claire was left alone with Michael. "Ghost, come here," Claire called out for him in her gentle voice. She looked worried to the point he could see the tears forming up in her eyes. Looking into her eyes, he could vaguely guess what she was going to talk about and why she was worried. Still, Michael took a long breath and made his way towards her. "Sit." Claire tapped the sofa next to her. The moment Michael landed his butt on the sofa, she grabbed his hand with both her hands. She squeezed his hand. "What happened to you that day, Ghost? Something is happening to you. And I can see the worry in your eyes. You can hide it from others, but not from me." Michael sighed inside hearing her words. There was nothing but pure care and concern in her eyes. "I don't know about you, but you are like a little brother to me. You are family to me. Tell me, how can I help you? I will go to hell and heaven for you." "You have no idea what I am, Claire," Michael thought inside. Helping one person might not change the whole world, but it could change the world for one person. What you did at that time changed my entire life. I will never forget your help. Tears began to roll out of her eyes as she continued, "Whatever is happening to you, there must be a way to fix it. Let me help you for once. Grandpa would know what is happening to you." With a gentle smile, Michael cupped Claire's soft face. He wiped off the tears. "Claire, I will be fine. That's my promise to you. Are you afraid I would rat you out? That's why you are not telling me what's happening to you." Claire was not stupid. She saw the sudden darkness that chased away the light when he began to kill the Baron's men. Although she fainted, she heard their screams. "No matter what you are and what you do, I will stand beside you, Ghost." "If you have no one to stand beside you and support you, that means Claire is dead," Michael sighed. She was not the kind of person who could stand beside Lucifer. Looking at her eyes, he could tell she would still be with him even if he told her that he is Lucifer. However, he didn't want her or the sect to be in the Corsair of the Guardians. If one day the Guardians found out that Ghost is Lucifer, he wanted to protect the sect and Claire from the wrath of Guardians. Her words warmed his heart. Claire leaned closer as her forehead touched his. "Claire, nothing will happen to me. We will live our immortal lives as a family since you are my big sister now." Michael chuckled to make her smile. Ever since he came to this world, he did many things and regretted nothing except killing the Baron and his men. That was his only regret, and that was because of the third persona inside him. Seeing the tears in her eyes, he promised himself that he would fix himself before he puts everyone he cares about in danger. Even if there came a day when the Guardians found out that Ghost is Lucifer, he would not let them touch the sect. His trip to the Aquilon realm would make sure of that. Don't worry too much. It'll be fine, Michael gently headbutted her. Meanwhile, in a spacious room where there was nothing but hundreds of books lying around, a white orb was glowing on a large oak table. The candles lit on the candlestick illuminated the orb to reveal two figures sitting closer to each other. A little dragon the size of a peacock with pure pearl scales staring at the orb without batting an eye. Under the little dragon, an old man in his 60s with a long white beard was leisurely sitting on the chair before the oak table. The windows behind him revealed the massive mountains floating in the sky. His eyes behind the half-moon spectacles showed a tinge of joy and sorrow at the same time. "You have grown up and you look just like your mother," the old man smiled. The figures in the orb were none other than Michael and Claire. The old man was watching them through the orb. "After everything we did, he still came to this world. It seems you are wrong, Andreas. We cannot avoid the inevitable." His voice sounded extremely calm despite his knowledge about the future of this world. "His powers are starting to show up, aren't they?" The dragon moved his lips as a melodious voice of a girl came out of its mouth. "Unfortunately, what we did 21 years ago has made him stronger. I doubt the Guardians will be able to stop him after a few years, Master, if he is going to become a threat to the entire world. Why can't you stop him before it's too late?" The dragon asked. The old man could only sigh. "When Andreas asked me to perform the forbidden spell, I told him we might be pushing the child towards the path to becoming the Dark Lord. If the Sky Hall listened to me, Dean might have become a normal child under the care and love of his family. If the gods wanted Dean to become the Dark Lord and fight with his own brother, no one can stop the battle from happening. Any interference in his life would make the situation worse for everyone." The old man took a deep breath and turned back to see the majestic view of floating mountains outside. "Is he coming here, Master?" He kept staring at the floating mountains with his hands behind his back. Then after a few moments of being silent, he opened his mouth. "Yes. The moment he reaches Aquilon, he will step on the path to become the Dark Lord." Chapter 386, My Lord. After his meeting with Lord Information, Michael came back to his hideout in Dark Forest. The moment he appeared in the dark corridors, Azazel welcomed him with a bow. "Where is Arya?" Michael asked. "In her room with her brothers, my lord," Azazel answered as Michael began to walk towards Arya's room. It was time he healed her brothers and received her undying loyalty. Before he travels to the Aquilon realm, he had to tie all the loose ends. One of those loose ends was Arya's brothers. The system required 150,000 badass points to heal them completely. He could now afford the points. He already had a plan for the two brothers. The closer he got to Arya's room, the more he heard a sobbing sound coming from inside the room. Obviously, Arya was as usual crying looking at her brothers. Azazel got used to her behavior. Usually, she would go outside to gather information on nobles, kings and place the spy cams in places such as Adventurer Guild, noble houses, and army barracks to spread the eyes of Lucifer. When she returns to the hideout, she would go to her room, lock the doors and start crying. That was her schedule. No matter how many times Azazel told her not to cry and trust Lord Lucifer, she didn't seem to stop sobbing. "She always cries like this?" Standing in front of the dark door, Michael asked Azazel. Her sobbing sound vanished as she probably heard the footsteps of Lucifer. "Yes, my lord." Michael nodded at Azazel while the demon butler just flicked his wrist as the door creaked open to reveal Arya standing beside her brothers. Blue tubes were running in and out of her brothers' bodies through mouth and chest. The scars had mostly disappeared from their bodies, yet they were in no shape. It was a miracle they survived. According to the system scan and his understanding, they inserted some kind of potion or substance into their bodies which kept them alive even after they lost organs such as the pancreas and livers. "My lord." When Michael entered the room, Arya quickly wiped the tears off her face and bowed. In her eyes, Michael could see a ray of hope glowing. The hope of saving her brothers. With a nod, Michael moved towards the large bed where the limbless brothers were sleeping peacefully. He placed his hand on their foreheads. System, it's time for us to heal them. System scanning initiated. Getting vital signs. Initiating healing plans. The system's voice sounded in his head. 150,000 badass points required. The system requires some other items to complete the healing process. The items would cost the host additional 5,000 points. The healing process would last long for a week. The system's voice continued to ring inside his head. Does the host wish to start the healing process now? The system asked. Instead of saying yes in his mind, he turned his gaze towards Arya. She was staring at him as her body shivered, expecting him to give her some good news about her brothers. Do you remember the price to heal your brothers? Michael asked. She couldn't see his reaction through the skull mask on his face. Taking a long breath, she looked directly into his glowing red eyes. I do, Lord Lucifer. If you can heal them and give me back my brothers to me, I will gladly give my life to you. I just want to see my brothers again. Your undying loyalty will ensure nothing happens to you or your brothers in the future. I'm giving them life. Michael looked at the two brothers for a second before turning his gaze back at Arya. And I can also take their lives, if you betray me in any way. His cold voice sent a chill running through Arya's spine. Her heart skipped a beat as she nodded in fear. System, start the healing process. He waved his hand after ordering the system. Right at the corner of the room, two 10-feet glass containers filled with sparkling blue water appeared. With another wave, he sent the bodies of the two brothers floating towards the containers. Arya watched her brothers getting submerged into the blue liquid with her body shivering. In a week, they will be completely healed. Remember, their souls have been damaged. I can heal their bodies, but only they can heal their souls. Unless they quench the thirst of revenge, their souls won't heal. Michael added the last part so they won't try any shit like forgive and forget. The last thing he wanted was his subordinates to turn peace pigeons. What if do you mean to my lord? Arya stuttered. It means they have to seek revenge on whoever was responsible for their state. Souls are magical, complicated things. Make sure you kindle the flame of revenge in their hearts. My lord, I am not planning to let go of those who did this to my brothers. Michael grinned inside to see the murderous look on Arya's face. He was glad to see the fire of revenge blazing hot in her heart. Put this on and meet me at the throne hall. Michael flicked his wrist as a neatly pressed black cloth appeared in his hand. He threw the clothes to Arya, gave her an order, and left the room. Although Arya had some questions regarding her brothers, she didn't get the chance to as he left the room before she could ask another question. My lord, are you going to the southern continent? Azazel asked while following Michael back to the throne hall. Yes. I have to deal with the pirates and then. Michael took a deep breath. Azazel couldn't guess the meaning of his sigh. Perhaps he was tired, or perhaps he was excited, or both. I am going to Mazeroth, an academy in Akilan realm. My lord, you are going alone? They want me to bring a familiar. So in bringing Nightmare with me, he couldn't help thinking about Hogwarts ever since he received the acceptance letter to Mazeroth. Only this time, they invited the Dark Lord instead of the boy who survived, Noah. What about Lady Dark Queen, my lord? Who knows where she is and what she's doing? Michael sighed. Since she put the earpiece in her space ring, Michael or the system couldn't track her as the space ring prevented the system from tracking them. Of course, the system was one level higher. It could have tracked Gaia and told Michael that she is now at Azare continent. While I am away, keep spreading the spy cams all over the continent. I want you to monitor everything that happens in Elon. Stay away from Noah's home for now. I'm pretty sure that old smoke would have come up with a way to prevent me from spying on them by now, as you wish, my lord, and give priority to the spy cam I placed on Peyton. If she gets anywhere near Noah or his family, destroy the spy cam, Michael ordered Azazel. Paying 10,000 points to the system enabled Michael to give control over the spy cams to Azazel. He could now monitor, destroy, and use the spy cam to its fullest potential alone without needing Michael. Monitoring the hundreds of spy cam from the hideout was Azazel's main task. Information was wealth and power. Michael had begun to hoard information like crazy. If it wasn't for the bad vibe he got from Lord Information, Michael would have placed a spy cam in his office or on him when he came to Baron's Manor. Michael had a feeling that the elf had some kind of countermeasure to prevent others from spying on him. After all, the elf was making millions by selling secret information. He wouldn't be careless or stay without a countermeasure against spies. As they reached the throne hall, Michael saw several undeads cleaning up the hall as though they were professional maids. Michael even slightly chuckled behind his masks, imagining the zombies in maid outfits. He made his way towards the throne and then leisurely sat on the throne. After a few minutes of waiting in silence, Arya finally appeared wearing the new clothes Michael gave him. The cloth was specially tailor-made for Arya by Michael with several assassin characters in games and movies in mind. The cloth was obviously black and had a cool hood to cover her head. He even gave her a nice cape to cover the throwing daggers, hidden blade on her wrists, and blades attached to her legs, waist, and hands. The dress seemed to be the child of Assassin's Creed and Blade. He was planning to give all his subordinates cool outfits with benefits. Just he needed a rune master and a blacksmith to forge armors that would give them an edge in battles. The blade work well? Michael asked. With a nod, Arya flicked her wrist as the hidden blade came out of her wrist, producing a sling sound. Arya was at body refining stage level 2. She was vulnerable in Elon or any other cultivation continents. The hidden blades wouldn't do much damage to the cultivators, but in the southern continent, she would be a perfect assassin with the blades. Step closer to me. We are going to the southern continent once again. As Arya stepped close to him, Michael willed the system to activate the runic teleporter. A bright light flashed across the hall. In a blink of an eye, Azazel saw Michael and Arya disappear from the hall. Maxine and Gibson were hanging out in the crypt. Currently, there were no rooms in the crypt but just a large spacious hall that could hold 100 people easily. Currently, the hall was filled with snoring and weird sounds made by the drunk pirates. Their snorting sounds even overcome the grumble noises made by hundreds of undeads outside the crypt. Suddenly a white light flashed across the hall as Maxine and Gibson couldn't help but close their eyes with their hands. When they opened their eyes, they felt a chill. Lucifer was sitting on the throne with his glowing red eyes staring at them. "My lord!" Maxine shouted with excitement before immediately falling onto her knees. "My lord!" Gibson also bowed his head and went to his knees. "My lord!" Arya heard another meek voice. She turned her head in the direction of the voice to see Shorty running towards them. Michael was surprised to hear Shorty actually address him as my lord instead of Captain. When he saw the skull mask on his face, Shorty was stunned as a sudden nervousness occupied his heart. "Maxine, Gibson, let's go buy ourselves a new warship, ***, expect Pirates of the Caribbean like sea battle in the upcoming chapters ***. Chapter 387 World Domination begins 2-inch swallow this. With a flick of his wrist, he took out 3 tiny blue pills the size of a pearl. It was odorless but shiny. Maxine took the pill without any hesitation while Gibson stared at the pills with a confused face. "Just take it," Maxine growled as Gibson quickly took the pill and swallowed it. Shorty had no idea what the pill would do, but he kinda wanted to try it for himself. He kept staring at Michael expecting that he would give him a pill too. "Shorty," Michael called, "you are in charge when we are away. Use this as a last resort and close your mouth and nose after using it." Shorty saw him yet again flick his wrist. This time it wasn't a pill that appeared in his hand but a glass vial. Shorty's hands shivered while taking the vial. He held it close to his chest. "Tell them to be ready, we will leave when we get back," Michael said as Shorty nodded. The very next moment, Shorty saw a bright light flash across his eyes. When Shorty opened his eyes after closing it due to the bright light, he stood in the hall alone. Gibson, Maxine, Arya, and Ghost were nowhere to be found. Shorty stared at the vial in his hand, wondering what it could do. He had no idea it was diluted fear toxin that would scare the crap out of the pirates if it escaped the glass vial. With his inventor skill, he was able to make adjustments to his armor which enabled him to release fear toxin into the air whenever he wanted. However, unlike the vial in Shorty's hands, the fear toxin in his armor was potent to the point it would kill anyone in southern continent in a few minutes, while cultivators at or below core formation level would die of heart attack if they breathed in the toxin for more than 5 minutes. Fuck, where are they? We have been waiting for an hour here. Inside Senator Caius' manor, Tiberius punched the wall, losing his patience. Caius was too focused staring at the map on his table. Calm down, Tiberius. Do you know where H is? Another sweet, gentle voice could be heard in the room. It belonged to none other than Sadie Kaplan. She traveled from newly found Tiberius' kingdom to Giselle with Tiberius to the meeting with Lucifer. It was time she returned to Elon, but to return, she would have to sail by the sea, which would take months. Hence, she wanted Lucifer to teleport her to Elon. The last couple of months had been an eye-opener for Sadie. When she was initially assigned to investigate the killings of Lucifer, she thought he was nothing but pure evil. It was rage and helplessness that pushed her to seek out Lucifer when her sisters disappeared. Now she changed her mind about Lucifer. Although he was not exactly what someone would call good, he wasn't as evil as the Guardians claimed him to be. Because of Lucifer, the girls were alive and got a second chance at living. The former slaves settled into Tiberius' place seemed to be really getting along with the girls. They were helping the girls overcome the trauma despite being that they had been through traumas of their own. Ask the senator. He was the one who sent him to the Maven Kingdom. Maven? Sadie asked, bewildered. She was still not quite used to the landscape and the kingdoms of the southern continent. What are the 7 kingdoms again? She asked, hoping to get Caius' attention. If he started talking, she hoped it would calm down Tiberius, who had no patience whatsoever. Her melodious, sweet voice was indeed able to take his eyes away from the map. She stood up from her chair and walked towards Caius' table to see the map. Sadie saw a huge piece of land divided into 7 pieces by black lines. The border of the continent had 3 adjacent kingdoms which were surrounded by mountains according to the map. These are the 7 kingdoms: Gisel, Maven, Bralon, Prerid. After pointing the 4 kingdoms on the map, he moved his fingers towards the border where the 3 kingdoms were surrounded by mountains: Kivin, Zoril, and Netis. These 3 kingdoms are known as Trident of Southern Continent because these 3 are ruled by kings, not senates. Yeah. I heard about the freedom fighters were hiding in the forests of Grey Mountains near Kivin. Tiberius finally stopped punching the walls and came to join them at the table. So what makes you so tense? Sadie asked. Caius sighed as he moved his finger towards Maven. The kingdom was adjacent to Giselle and almost the same size as them. Caius' finger rested on the border of the 2 kingdoms where Sadie saw a marking of a mountain. The mountain seemed to be right between the 2 kingdoms. Almost 50% inside Giselle and 50% inside Maven. This Stormvale Mountain, what makes that a problem now? Isn't that mountain closed for some bullshit political reasons? Tiberius asked. 2 decades ago, the Senate of each Senate agreed to close the mountain range until both senators come into an agreement of who owns the mountain. This sounds silly to me, no offense. Why not simply share the mountain? Also, what do you guys want with the mountain anyway? Sadie asked as Tiberius also nodded, looking as though he was agreeing with Sadie. Stormvale is not just any mountain. Deep inside, there are gold veins. Anyone who owns this mountain will basically become a superpower. Hence, the other senates poked their nose into the matter and brokered a peace talk. Caius rolled his eyes. The other senates brokered the peace talks not to avoid a war but to keep both Giselle and Maven from becoming superpowers. They were only keeping their hands off the mountain because they had no claims on the mountain. If there is an agreement, why are you worried? Let me guess, you received news of Maven preparing to make their move on the mountain, Tiberius said, surprising Caius. That was exactly the truth. Caius had been receiving news of Maven spending a huge chunk of their wealth buying weapons, armors, airships as well as hiring mercenaries. How did you know? Seeing Caius' reaction, Sade could tell Tiberius guessed it correct. Therefore, she turned her gaze towards Tiberius and asked, "It doesn't take a genius actually. After Lord Lucifer helped out Senator here kill the previous Senate, the seats of the Senates are empty. Although the Senate has been filled with Senator Caius buddies, it's temporary. The elections are coming. Giselle has to spend most of her resources ensuring the elections would be fair and the kingdom would be in a tense situation. Plus, until the elections are over, the Spartans would take over the leadership. They are great soldiers but shitty leaders. The kingdom will be vulnerable without the Senate to lead, Tiberius snickered as he continued. If they conquered the mountains first, it would be near impossible to take the mountain range back because that's a damn good place to defend. It's a natural forte. Anyone who fights will have an uphill battle in their hands. Also, the Senate will have so many meetings, bickerings, and when they finally get their shit together, Maven would become strong enough to wipe out Giselle from the map. After listening to Tiberius explain, Sadie understood the seriousness of the situation. With the Senate destroyed in a single day, the people of Giselle were tense as it is. They weren't prepared to face a full-scale war. I could send in the Spartans to defend the mountain range until the election finishes, but it will be like sending them to their graves. Besides, I'm having some problems with the new Spartan captain. New? What happened to the old one? Tiberius asked. He was injured during the explosion at the arena. A month ago he died and a new one took his place. Caius sighed. Took his place? Shouldn't it be you who chooses the new captain? Unfortunately, Spartans have their own rules about choosing a new captain. The Senate or the senators can't poke our noses into their matter. I can't fight Maven and the Spartans at the same time. This is giving me a headache on top of the upcoming elections. I hope Lord Lucifer don't get disappointed with you, Senator, Tiberius snickered. He hated all the senators including Caius. All the Senate and the senators sent their forces to shut down the rebellion. Even now, except Giselle, the other 3 Senate-ruled kingdoms were enforcing harsh rules to put out the rebellion and hanging slaves mercilessly. Although Caius helped the rebels take refuge in Tiberius' kingdom and gave protection, Tiberius knew he was doing that because of Lucifer's orders, not out of the goodness in his heart. Tiberius was only thankful to Lucifer, not to anyone else. Don't listen to him, Senator. Tell everything to Lord Lucifer. He might just go there and destroy their asses overnight. Sadie slightly chuckled. Tiberius was surprised as this was the first time he saw this girl chuckle since he met her. She always had a gloomy face. He knew the reason for her sadness. After hearing their story, he came to realize that cultivators aren't better than the nobles in the southern continent. They both seemed evil to the core. Compared to them, Lucifer seemed to be the good guy in Tiberius' eyes. Swoosh. Suddenly, a bright light flashed across the room as the 3 of them quickly shut their eyes close. A few seconds after they opened their eyes to see Lucifer sitting on a throne made of skull and bones behind Senator Caius. Sadie saw Maxine and Gibson standing on each side of the throne. Lord Lucifer, Lord Lucifer, Lord Lucifer. Caius was the first to kneel down, followed by Sadie. Tiberius took a few seconds before finally getting onto his one knee. You seem tense, Caius. Tell me everything. Michael didn't beat around the bushes but directly asked after seeing the dread in Caius' eyes. Lord Lucifer. For a few minutes, Michael just listened to Caius explain the problems Giselle was having since he last saw him. Michael was too focused on the tournament and the Guardians and kinda neglected Giselle. It was not because Giselle wasn't important, but any problem in the southern continent could be fixed by brute force as Michael was a godlike existence here, especially now after upgrading himself. Maxine, let's buy the warship and take a trip to Maven. As you wish, my lord. We should destroy the Senate as we did here. Maxine grinned evilly as Caius felt a chill running through his spine. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.